Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, Elon Musk is coming on the show because his son, Elon Musk, has posted Citizen Vigilante. Now, I've got to be honest with you, I didn't know what this was, but I'm just going to explain it to you. It's a film about an American businessman in Croatia who decides to take on, quote-unquote, violent criminals. But apparently, it's our friends, the grooming gangs, that he's taking on, and he's literally running across the streets, shooting the grooming gangs and, indeed, the judges and their accomplices and people that have helped them out. Now, as you know, with this widespread immigration into Europe, every country now has a problem with racist, terrorist gangs because, like I said yesterday, as far as I'm concerned, the grooming gangs, it is a weapon of war. The aim is to subjugate the indigenous population and to bully them, and that is the purpose of it. It's a well-known tactic. The Indians call it the love jihad, that concept that you can subjugate your opponents, the opponents of Islam, by raping their children. Pretty despicable. Now, look, this Citizen Vigilante, you know, violent films are not my thing, if I'm being honest, although I did star in a slash horror film called Election Night. But anyway, they're not my thing. But I have to say to you, unfortunately, art will have to follow the culture and the environment, the political environment, the social environment of the countries and the world as it is. And therefore, if people feel frustrated about the fact... If people feel frustrated, what am I saying? If people are devastated by the fact that their children are being surrendered to a migrant gang to be raped, then they are going to make violent films about it. Elon Musk is in trouble as usual because they want to shoot the messenger, figuratively, not literally. Anyway, Elon Musk is here. Errol, I think, is a professional apologist for Elon, but it's the first time, one of the first times I've had him on the show. I think it might be the second time. So Errol, look, the reality is, the last time you came on, you said that your family considers Britain to be, you know, part of their cultural heritage, part of their the heritage of their family, and therefore they are concerned about what goes on in Europe wherever they live in the world. And I think that that is something that Elon has proved by posting this. The reality is, many people want to shoot the grooming gangs. That is just a fact. And of course, what we will get now, Errol, is the people grabbing their pearls in shock. Oh, my goodness, how can he do this? Well, I think, how can you let a migrant gang rape your children?
Well, of course. I mean, the logic escapes me. Obviously, films that glorify violence and all that sort of stuff have to be taken with a pinch of salt. But you know, people are being pushed too far in the West at this point in time. Certainly, they're not being pushed too far. I'd say they're being pushed over the brink. And the result is that at some point, real men or men have to say, wait, we can't do this anymore. We have to wake up. As I've said before, you know, the English are under no obligation or anything to give England to illegal immigrants. They're under no obligation to give their country away. America is under no obligation to give its country to vagrants from another country. This is crazy. And, you know, if I build a fine house, for example, I don't have to, I've gone to the trouble of building a fine home. I don't have to let strangers into my home. That doesn't make any sense. And,
but what about this argument? What about this argument, Errol, that Tunisia makes, or people in Tunisia, that actually there has been significant development in North Africa and across the Islamic world because they've been able to empty the dross into the West? I mean, it's a bizarre thing, isn't it? That a country like Tunisia will say, look, the jihadis, the welfare claimants, the criminals, we don't need to worry about them now because they're in France.
Well, you know, that's, you know, it just speaks to the stupidity of the Europeans. I'm not sure what the Europeans think they're doing. They're under no obligation to do this. What is the point? Why, under what, what obligation means that you are obliged to have your daughters potentially victims of these vagrant type criminals?
But Errol, I went to the Holocaust Educational Trust, a very lovely group of people who are incredibly well-meaning. And I watched them stand up and they were talking about, and there was literal Auschwitz survivors, because there were a couple left even then. A couple of them standing up saying, it's terrible because in my life, anti-Semitism in Europe has risen again. And you think to yourself, yeah, but you stood there saying how we should accept all refugees and then asking yourself, I wonder why anti-Semitism has risen. Everybody knows that whatever you say about the quote-unquote far-right thugs, they're not the ones that are threatening the synagogues in London. But then, you know, the Holocaust Educational Trust, I don't want to be nasty to them, but they are saying that Britain should accept more refugees and then standing up and asking why their own people are being beaten up.
Well, it's patently ridiculous. You know, how they've managed to sell this to the British people and to other people in Europe is beyond my imagination. People have been, the Europeans have been placed under some sort of guilt complex that they sort of owe their countries to these people in these third world countries. They owe it to them to hand their countries over.
Yes.
And the English are, for example, are under no obligation. They do not owe England to these people. And the English have there's no obligation on them to agree to any of this. And they've been putting up with these puppet governments that have been forcing this to happen at the instigation, I imagine, of Chatham House, which gets its instructions from the Atlantic Council, which gets its instructions from somebody else. And this is all wrong. And eventually you have to imagine, you have to realize, I mean, that the people are going to say, no more, this is crazy, we're not doing this anymore. And, you know, we're not guilty of anything to this extent that we have to sacrifice our children to these vagrants. The strange thing is, these vagrants they want to immigrate to Europe, but why don't they immigrate to other Muslim countries? Why don't they immigrate to their own countries? Why are they immigrating to Europe?
But if you saw, Errol, if you saw that one TikTok video, I mean, there's been thousands, so I don't expect you necessarily to have seen it. But when he said, when a guy was in the channel saying, Allah would want you to come to Britain, spend £10,000, come here. And as I watched it, I thought, this man is not a benefit scrounger. This man is a straight-up invader. When he's talking about Allah has commanded you to come to Britain. And my thought is that what they're saying is, they're saying, look, we have a huge opportunity here to Islamise the West and to get rid of Christianity, which is something which has been an aim of Islam ever since it was founded by an illiterate merchant, Muhammad. They want to do that, and so this is the opportunity. But the big advantage of this jihad is you don't have to fight, and you will be paid benefits by the people that you are eliminating. They will supply you with a home, they will supply you with food, they will supply you with clothing and education for your children, and you can rape their daughters. They will give you political office and indeed scholarships to universities. And so if you are talking about a genocide, this is the best paid genocide in human history. You will be supported and rewarded in your work.
Yes, but it's not the people who are doing that. It's not the people who are saying that. It's not the populations in the countries that are saying that. It's the puppet governments that you've got that are saying that. And they are being put in positions that we don't quite understand. Either they're being blackmailed or something to be able to force them to make these kind of decisions, to do the kind of things that you've been talking about. The English, for example, I talk about the English, as I'm English, under no obligation to give England to these people. They're under no obligation.
Tell me about.
They don't owe these people England.
Tell me about puppet governments, because I'm not a big knowledge on geopolitics. Although, to be fair, when I was at university, everyone always said anyone who says they know about geopolitics is just lying anyway. But here's my feeling, and see if this narrative flies with you. Might be completely wrong. I think that Tony Blair's stakeholder society, the central concept was, whichever way you vote, nothing changes. It's about executive agencies, it's about quangos, it's about consulting left-wing charities that you fund through the taxpayer in order to tell you the same thing, and just this well-round. It's very clear now that there is a body, that there are a body of people in the United Kingdom who do not agree that Britain should be a wealthy and powerful country, who do not believe that Britain is a force for good, and who do not believe it is the birthright of the British to live in Britain. Those people run the country. So you can go to the ballot box and vote whichever way you want, and it's still going to have the same policy of uncontrolled immigration, welfareism, and all that sort of thing. But you see a sort of higher power, do you, of a sort of international brotherhood of people who are attempting to destroy the West? How does that work?
Well, yes. There can't be any real doubt about that. That people are taking instructions. They've taken advantage of the idea, the do-good idea, that we are a civilized nation. We can share our form of civilization with these other countries. When they see how we live, they will accommodate and become part of our civilization. They will behave like us and so forth. That's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
They will come to your country and they will Muslimize or Islamize or whatever it is they do. They will do that in your country. Then they will tell you that your system is no good and they want their system. The fact is they actually fled the countries that they're in because of their system. And they've come to your country and they want to re-implement those systems that they fled from.
But as you well know, there is a narrative for that, isn't there? Which is, when the Soviet Union falls, you cannot look at things like Ceausescu's Romania, which admittedly wasn't in the Soviet Union but was a communist country. You can't look at that and go, communism is fantastic. There was a time, no doubt you remember it in your life, where people attempted with some credibility to say that the Soviet Union was a great place to live. In 1989, 1990, nobody believed that. It was very, very clear. So if you are that way inclined, you had to do something new. And to me, I think what they've decided to do is to say, look, in reality, the reason the West is rich has got nothing to do with capitalism. It's got nothing to do with rule of law. It's got nothing to do with Judeo-Christian culture. It has to do with one thing: slavery. Had there been no slavery, Africa would have been the richest continent on earth, and this ridiculous experiment of liberalism, of democracy, of rule of law, of property rights, that would have made no difference whatsoever. And so that is now the attitude of these people. They will say, look, Pakistan is the greatest country on earth. It's only poor because it was subjugated by the British. Now we've got to get to Britain and take our money back. Now, I'm going to say this to you. You know, whilst your family are rich now, I suspect in the time of slavery, your family benefited in no way at all from slavery. The vast majority of British people at that time were either farmers or factory workers who had no financial benefit at all. And in fact, actually, the reason Britain is rich is because millions of people during the Industrial Revolution built it with their bare hands. It's got nothing to do with running around, you know, in Africa selling slaves to Virginia. That's got nothing to do with it. But that is the narrative, that this wealth is owned by the slaves and indeed the people in the British Empire and should be taken back by force.
No, this is such nonsense. I mean, it's such absolute nonsense. Britain actually, to any serious thinking person, was responsible for taking civilization of the kind that we love, that we want: education, hospitalization, medication, all those sort of things, administration. Britain was responsible for sharing those ideas all around the world and telling countries and showing countries that were really not countries at all, that you can be a much more efficient country if you follow our ways and do what we do. And so Britain was, in fact, a benefactor to all these nations around the world. England outlawed slavery in 1805. Not to say that slavery didn't exist for thousands of years, but Britain was one of the first countries, if not the first country, to realize that we are moving on and we need to get out of this idea of slavery. And many of the people in America who live on, especially who live on the eastern seaboard, the white people, are the descendants of British slaves that were sent to America. The white people. Yeah. There were more white slaves in America than black slaves.
Oh, no, we've got to stop this. We've got to stop this right now. You cannot come on the British media and admit that slavery was done by anyone other than white people. It's not allowed. You can't talk about the slave market of Khartoum. You can't mention that there are more slaves.
No, you can.
There are more slaves now in Pakistan than there were in Virginia at the height of slavery. The reality is that there is an enormous racism associated with slavery. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Our culture, whether that be in Britain, the United States of America, or whatever, were the people that abolished slavery. And many countries in the world have not abolished it in any meaningful sense whatsoever. But because we had a serious debate, the sort of debate, Errol, that can only come about in a democratic society, because we had an open debate about it, the bad guys who are still owning slaves are able to castigate us. And there is an irony here that because we fought against slavery, we're the ones that get the blame for it. You are not allowed, I know you don't care, but you're not allowed to talk about the number of slaves in Africa today. There are more slaves today than there were before it was quote-unquote abolished, simply because when it was abolished, it was only abolished in the Anglosphere. You know, the rest of them are getting on with it.
Yes, that's true. And the world owes a great deal to England. I say England, I suppose I mean Wales, Scotland and Ireland. But England was the country that civilized the world. So let's get real. And as far as taking advantage of the English people today, the English people are by nature wanting to share their knowledge, wanting to help others, but it's been taken to a point where it's no longer doing the English people any good. And so the idea that England is owed, that England owes third world countries a lifestyle in England, and that you need to give England away, that's nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. England belongs to the English, and it should remain like that.
Yeah, well, I think that we are now 10, 15, 20 years away to the first claims for a two-state solution in Britain. And that is to say that I think I agree with David Starkey with this concept of the Islamic tribal area. That is to say that Burnley, Blackburn, Nelson, Keighley, places like this, effectively are now not not the United Kingdom in the conventional sense. That is to say, they have a different system of law through Sharia courts. They have a different system of policing through two-tier policing. They have a different system of governance. It's only slightly different in that you elect your councillor based on your tribe rather than based on political views. But I think then we saw with Maccabi Tel Aviv the first tribal area that had an immigration policy. That is to say, no Jews are allowed in Aston because this is an Islamic area. I think that we are, as I say, 15, 20 years away from those areas saying, look, legitimately, we have always been governed in a different way. We now should formalise that difference into a two-state solution. So you would have, if you like, the United Kingdom, and then perhaps a series of Islamic republics that would exist within our territory. Now, that may terrify people, but if you look at, Aston during Maccabi Tel Aviv, was it behaving like a town or was it behaving like a country when it raised up volunteers to protect its buildings, when it forced an immigration policy, when it demanded separate treatment, different treatment to other parts of the United Kingdom? That is state-like, not community-like.
Yes, I can't disagree with anything that you say. What you say is very accurate. So I completely agree with you. And what I'm saying is what we're seeing now is a sort of renaissance of people in the European world waking up and saying, look, we've tried our best. We've done everything we can for all these people, but it's now harming us and it's no longer helping us. We're not helping anybody, and we're certainly not helping ourselves. And we're at risk of, as you just pointed out, of actually losing our country or parts of our country, or going, as J.D. Vance has said, England may soon be the Muslim power with nuclear capability, yeah. And with the ability to deliver the nuclear capability. So this is crazy behavior. As I say again, I repeat it again. The English are under no obligation. They do not owe anybody England. They do not owe their country to these vagrants from third world countries. They do not owe their country to these people.
I'll tell you something. They
owe England a great deal, but England does not owe them anything.
We're gonna go to a break, but I'll tell you, people keep saying to me, why is it that the Jews have been persecuted throughout the years? Just let me tell you, there's a very simple answer. The Jews are the same as every other ethnic group, every other tribal group, every other community that has no homeland. All of them are abused. All of them are attacked. If you look at the Kurds, it's exactly the same. It is an incredibly dangerous thing for you to be a tribe, a community, a religion or a group with no homeland. And that is what the British are hurtling towards. We're going to have more with Errol Musk straight after this.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk with Andre Walker, and I've got Errol Musk with me. Errol, let's talk a little bit about Twitter or X and the fact that Citizen Vigilante has been posted for 24 hours. I've got to be honest with you, I've not seen it, but I think we can talk about the wider issue, which is, you know, Elon Musk's absolute determination to allow the West to talk about the issues that are facing it, and his determination to not go along with the culture that now has grown up in British policing, which is to solve a problem by bullying British people out of talking about it. Why is he doing it? What is it about him that makes him so interested in free speech, in freedom and democracy? And why isn't he like every other billionaire out there who really just keeps their mouth shut and goes along with the sort of Tony Blair Institute view of the world for fear that their businesses will be affected by some sort of a boycott?
Well, Elon is a very straightforward sort of guy. My son, he's a no-nonsense, common-sense individual, and that's actually what got him where he is today, and not anything else. And a lot of the things that he says, those ideas are shared by probably 80% of people. It's not that he's the only one with those ideas. I would imagine 80% of the population in England and in America completely agree with Elon. We have, as you pointed out in the previous section, that there are groups or bodies or a group of influencers who are trying to have us believe that that's not what we think. But in fact, when Elon talks, he's really echoing the feelings of at least 80% of the people. There's nothing out of the outlandish or crazy about what he's saying.
I'd heard that he's got Asperger's syndrome, the mild form of autism. But if that were true, which I see you shaking your head, but certainly one of the greatest things I've seen with people who do have Asperger's is they have an inability to value lies. And they're just very interested in saying, these are the facts of the situation, which I'm not going to sugarcoat. And this question's slightly redundant because you say he hasn't got Asperger's, but if he had, I was going to say to you, do you think that honesty is just is part of the Asperger's?
No. Elon is a person, when they talk about Asperger's, they talk about Asperger's being people who tackle a project and become obsessed with the idea of solving some or other issue. In that respect, Elon is quite a lot like that. He will take on an issue and believe in it and do everything he can. Usually in that respect, it's to do with technical things. But the things that Elon says are common sense things. They are not. There's nothing weird or odd about the things that Elon says. He will say, for example, it's important that we realize what we are doing to ourselves in these countries when our governments make these laws with which the majority of people don't agree, so Elon is simply telling the truth. Just like I think I'm telling the truth. Again, I repeat,
it's an underrated quality.
America is under no obligation to give their country away to people who do not agree with the English way, who do not agree with the American way, and will come into your country with their ideas and tell you how you must live. There is absolutely no obligation on the English people to do such a thing. And if they do it, it's because they are being fooled into doing it.
I think it's sad, really, because I think what you've said is in a sense slightly a couple of years out of date, because I think there was a period when we were fooled. Now we're just straight out forced. Nobody now believes that uncontrolled immigration has benefited Britain. Nobody believes, well, not many people believe, that multiculturalism is marvellous. Most people now accept the very simple premise that curry is not culture. And when people go, oh, our culture has been enriched, I can get a biryani. And you think, well, what the hell does that mean? thing. I mean, it's just absolute garbage. But it worries me greatly, because I just think the project here is to say, look, in 5 or 10 years, it's not going to matter what British people think, because they will simply be outvoted. The next election, Errol, we're expecting 40 to 50 jihadi MPs in the Parliament. That will represent 5 to 8% of the British Parliament, which, admittedly, there are, is probably slightly above the number of Muslims in, but it's not a large number. But what's happening is, you don't need a majority of people to grab power. I mean, you've got a South African accent, right? You don't need a majority of people to take power. What you need is your people to be very organised. And what happens is, when you get to a situation whereby there's, say, 30% Pakistani Muslims in a certain area, all the councillors are Pakistani, because you don't need 100% if everybody works together, if the ladies in the burqas all vote twice, if you make sure that you get everyone on a postal vote and Dad chooses who everyone votes for. You don't need 100%, and that's what worries me. When people say Britain will remain a Christian country, I don't think that would make any difference. I could see a scenario where Britain is an Islamic republic with a majority of Christians at the first day of that Islamic Republic.
Yes, so what you say is absolutely correct. I can't really add anything to what you're saying. I would say that we, the people in England, for example, my own family, I have a lot of family there, have been put in a position where they feel shamed that they haven't done more for others, and they should be concerned about these other people. The fact that these other people couldn't care less about the English people is of little consequence.
Yeah.
And they're playing on the feelings that I could almost call it the Christian-like feelings of the British, people.
But let me say this to you, Errol. And you know what? It's a late night show, and we can be, I think, more honest than some of the daytime people. I have been to various countries in the world, and there are countries out there, and this is not every poor country, where you go, look, the reason your country is a shithole is because your people have a culture of laziness and lack of innovation, right? Now, that's not true of everywhere. There are some places that, as a result of natural disasters... Look, as an example, Afghanistan is never going to be rich, right? They marry off 9-year-olds for $2,000 a pop, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the culture of that country is bad, right? I personally think the reason that nobody moves from Britain to Afghanistan is because it's a dump, right? Now, what the political left would say is, if only the Afghans had the opportunity. Well, they do have the opportunity, and what they do is they sell their 9-year-old daughters to paedophiles for 2,000 quid. I mean, if that is the standard of your culture, you will remain poor forever. And we need to be able to say, the reason the West is rich is democracy, property rights, rule of law, all of those things that we codified, if not invented, are a better state of humanity. And the reason Mogadishu's a dump is because they don't agree. And if we copy Somalian culture, our country can be as much of a dump as Somalia is. But that is what will happen. It will not improve.
Yes, exactly. Everything you say is completely correct. And the thing is that they're playing on the feelings of the English men, let's say, talking about men, where they are frightened or being shamed into standing up for themselves, and that's wrong. You should be, you must stand up for yourself. You must stand up for your country. You must stand up for things. You have to, go back to the kind of thinking you had with people like Churchill and that, yep, where you looked at your country as the best country in the world, and anyone who wants to have a part of it has to play the game. And if you are being kind enough to let them come into your country, they better assimilate and take up what you believe in and do what you believe in. You're not coming here with your crazy nonsense, which turned your own country into a shithole, as you say, and you're coming here to bring that here. Forget about it.
Yeah, it's sad really because, and I'll leave this with this final thought. As I always say, my grandmother was Greek. Now, as you can see, Errol, you can see from the colour of my skin that I'm an ethnic Greek. But, yeah, I'm only a quarter. But, look, she left Greece because she thought it was a dump. her brother loved Greece and therefore he stayed. Now, I think that that is the simple proposition. If you think that Pakistan is the greatest country on earth, my suggestion is live in Pakistan. Do not move to Britain and see how much Britain can benefit from Pakistani cultural success, because there hasn't been any.
Well, look, I know some really, really nice Pakistani people. They are the most decent, helpful, kind people you can get.
Yes.
But you can't come and take away the country that made the world a civilized place. England was a great country. It was the country that picked up what Rome had left us and restored what Rome would have liked the world to be. And you have no reason to be ashamed of England, and you have no reason to be ashamed of British English, British standards and the quality that England introduced into the world. And you need to stand up for yourselves. And I say that to myself. We all need to stand up and say, look, that's the end of it. We've done our bit for you. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for you from these third world countries to share in what we believe in and what we do. But we're not going to throw our own values, our own country in the dustbin just for you.
We've also,
Errol, you can feel good about it.
We've also, Errol, lest we forget, created a United Nations in order to give a voice to smaller nations, and those nations use that voice in order to try and subjugate democracy in the Western world. I mean, that's the reality. All of this, you are a fascist, and all this sort of thing has come from the dump countries, right? So what they haven't done is drag themselves up. They've sought to drag us down to their own level. It's a sad thing.
Right.
Anyway, Errol Musk, thank you so much for coming on. And when you see Elon, tell him to keep going. I mean, I must say, Errol, it does make me laugh that man just doesn't give a toss what the political left think of him. But anyway, we're going to be back with Charles Amos just in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker. Charles Amos is in the studio with us. And Charles is one of these people who can just talk about any subject with a degree of competence, but actually has brought this leaflet in, which is about the tobacco ban. Look, there's been talk backwards and forwards about bans on advertising, bans on cigarettes, bans on whatever. Why don't you tell us what this latest proposal is, and then we can go through what we think about it.
So the Tobacco and Vapes Bill passed earlier this year,
Yes.
and it is a piece of legislation which will stop anybody born after 2009 from smoking cigarettes. So in time, tobacco will be totally banned for...
Now, that's just cigarettes, right? That's not cigars.
No. Every
All of
tobacco
it?
products will be banned for people born after 2009. It's going to be a total ban on tobacco for anybody born after that date. And I think this is wrong.
Yes.
People should be free to make their own mistakes or choose a different conception of the good life if they so please. If we accept the paternalist principle, and people must understand what it is you should not be free to make mistakes, then you will find the government has to be committed to banning excessive amounts of soft drink consumption,
Yes.
requiring
Yes.
exercise. In the extreme, we're talking about them planning the whole of our lives. There's nothing to stop that except administrative barriers. And do you really think our whole lives should be totally controlled by the state? And the only thing stopping that being administrative barriers? I say no. Individuals should be free to live. To lead their own lives, not just live their lives, but to lead their lives.
But there is
in order to lead your life, you've got to be free
Yes.
to do so. You can't be pushed about and told what to do, and that is the logical end of the paternalist principle. It is total control over the individual, and I'm yet to hear a single paternalist in either the philosophical literature or in people in Parliament give a principled reason as to why, OK, you can have this much control over the individual, but when it's slightly lesser harms, you can't have any control over them. There is no principled reason.
No, because what we have seen is as smoking has declined, the same people have moved on to sugar and salt. And what you need to be clear is that this is a health fascism industry that will find an outlet, and the more healthy the country becomes, the more they will move on to the next thing.
Well, absolutely. In the 1990s, everybody said in the anti-tobacco lobby, "Oh, we don't want to ban tobacco," and the Liberals all said, "Oh, look, the end of what you want is banning tobacco," and they said, "Oh no, we don't want that. You know, you're being silly now."
Yes.
You know, it's not a slippery slope that we inevitably end up with banning tobacco, but here we are 20, 30 years later, and they're banning cigarettes and tobacco overall.
I want to make a comment about tobacco. So first of all, I mean, it's worth saying that if you take health advice from political commentators, you're an idiot, which is what I always say. However, I am fairly confident in saying that smoking cigarettes is a poor idea. But
Is it, though?
The problem
is it, and I would question that, because if you give up smoking before the age of 40, 90% of the premature mortality that you would otherwise face does not occur to you. So if you're doing it at 25, just socially, it's not actually that bad. I think if you really enjoy it.
The problem is with cigarettes. Yeah. So I have smoked unfiltered cigarettes. Remember those Woodbines? In fact, when I used to smoke, I would take the filters off Marlboro Reds and smoke them the wrong way round so they didn't get. And I had a humidor with some cigars. My mother died of lung cancer. I would suggest to you the big problem with cigarettes, which has got nothing to do with your arguments, right? Yeah. The big problem with cigarettes is effectively they're Moorish. So if you and I had one cigarette now, it's not going to kill us, right? However, the big problem is it will lead to having about 20 a day, and that's probably quite a bad idea. And so, but conversely, you are not going to smoke 20 cigars a day, and in any case, you don't smoke it in the same way. You don't take it into your lungs, and so the problem with cigarettes is that people smoke far too many of them, right? And you can say that it's a function of the product. That's why they do it. But nonetheless, that isn't an inherent problem with one cigarette. No. That's a problem with 500,000 cigarettes.
Absolutely.
Right? But I have to say to you, it is possible to get mouth cancer from smoking cigars, but I have never met anybody who's died from smoking cigars. Smoking a pipe, similarly, I don't think I've ever met anybody who's died from smoking a pipe. And so even if you were right about cigarettes, and I appreciate that you as in taking the liberal argument don't even accept that cigarettes should be banned, but you are still destroying an industry for killing people that probably hasn't killed people, that being cigars and pipes.
And the tobacco industry in the UK employs about 6,000 people. And if this ban goes ahead, we're going to find that those people are going to be put out of work, or at least they're going to be put out of their preferred line of work. The problem with the paternalist principle that the health fanatics in Westminster have adopted is it's solely focused on longevity. It doesn't seem to admit that there's any trade-off between longevity and pleasure. And almost everybody implicitly admits that there is a legitimate trade-off to be made between these two things. If you go to a bakery on the other side of the road to get a better pastry, you're risking your life, that is your longevity, in order to get a bit more pleasure from the better croissant or something like that.
Yes.
So even those people have to admit, unless they're going to say, I was irrational when I walked across the road, that you can exchange longevity for greater pleasure.
It's funny, I had this conversation with my late mother when she was alive, obviously. And she said that everybody has a vice, and she said that she is glad that her vice didn't leave her falling about in the streets like being drunk would do. And my mum liked cigarettes. Now, it is simply a fact that they killed her, right? There is no dispute in that, and she is. Her life was, I think, consistent with what generally happens, which is she died 10 years earlier than her life expectancy.
It's about 10 to 13 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and this is the difficult thing, because I wish she was still here. But at the same time, Charles, you are right. She did like a cigarette. She did like a cigarette.
And the question that I would put to all of these paternalists, and I've met many of them on the streets, because I led the grassroots campaign against the tobacco ban, going from Westminster to Oxford to Witney to East Grinstead to Begbrook, is where do you draw the line? Because some people will say, well, I don't think we should allow smoking because you lose 10 to 13 years, but I don't think we should micromanage people's personal lives and tell them who they should, date or what food they should eat on a regular basis. They'll say, well, that should be protected, that should be a free area, but that area should not be a free area. But they can never explain why the line should be drawn in the middle. And I think that's because no line does exist. Well, if you accept people should be free to make the mistakes in the small cases, then they should be free to make mistakes in the big cases
but if you look at a lot of public health, so I'm older than you.
That's right.
It's not immediately obvious. No, I'm joking.
Well, I have got a thinning head of hair. I mean, that must be said.
No, I'm older than you. And when I was at school, pasta was considered a very, very healthy dish. Yeah. Right. Now, we now know that loading up with carbohydrates is a pretty disastrous move. But we used to watch television programmes that said, do not eat fatty foods, eat pasta instead.
Yeah, with the food pyramid.
Absolutely. And it is simply a fact that the nanny state has been simply wrong on many occasions. Make your baby sleep on its front, which Anne Diamond's eldest son died from cot death, and she ran a campaign against putting babies on the front. There's all sorts of occasions when the government is wrong. And what effectively happens every time is the same thing. The science is settled and the government adopts the settled science. And then you discover science is never settled. It's always a constant process of adjusting. Yeah. And so actually, like you say, and many people will be unsympathetic with this, but if we stop cigarettes, people who enjoy cigarettes will not have the chance to do it. Yeah. But also 6,000 people lose their jobs.
11% of people in this country are smokers, and a good number of them enjoy smoking. They should not be deprived of that right, and that is what this legislation is going to do. And you're absolutely right in saying that even on their own grounds, the paternalists are very often getting it wrong with the policy. If you look at the sugar tax, for example, that was put in place to reduce childhood obesity. Childhood obesity went up after it, and that's in large part because people stopped drinking as many sugary drinks, or rather the drinks that they were drinking had less sugar in them, but they just went and bought chocolate and cakes instead to satisfy their sweet tooth. Yes. So childhood obesity didn't go down.
No.
So at least if you're a paternalist, do it decently and sort of tax it all across the board. Don't do these rubbish measures that don't work at all.
But I think that actually the problem is, if you are a paternalist, you are uniquely gullible when it comes to a public body telling you that something is good or something is bad. And you see it all the time, where people go, no, the government scientists have said this is the case, ergo it must be correct. And when you go, well, they might be wrong, they go, no, that's not possible. It's not. And so the people that want us to do as we're told are the people who are more susceptible to believing what they're doing. So that's a double whammy. Whereas actually an authoritarian Charles Amos would be more questioning of the science of all of it.
I like to think so. I like to think so. Although if I really did have a conception of the good life that I thought was good come what may, maybe I would be willing to be a bit more slipshod with the evidence.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure.
By the way, after the break, we're going to talk about your award.
Oh, fantastic.
OK, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Charles Amos, and we'll be back just in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is The Late Show with Andre Walker and Charles Amos. Let me just say to you, we've had a text in about duty to be healthy, just to explain that what people will say is, the NHS spends X amount on smokers. Now, I have to say to you, we are forced into a Soviet healthcare system, and then we get told we now have a duty to change our lifestyle in order to satisfy its cravings. I don't like it conceptually. What do you say?
The texter is absolutely right in saying that tobacco users do cost the NHS money, about £5 billion in cancer treatment and picking up litter. However, because they die 10 to 13 years earlier than everybody else, prime pension years, of course, they save the state at least £10 billion. And that's on top of the fact that they pay in excess of £9 billion in tobacco duty, or thereabouts. So the net saving, if we just look at the sort of the costs that they incur and then the costs that they save, is £5 billion, and if you include the tax revenue, you know, it's about £14 billion, the net benefit to the Treasury. So tobacco users cannot at all be accused of costing the taxpayer money. They're an actual benefit to the Treasury.
See, if they did? Okay. If they did, I would still say it's their right to do it.
Well, absolutely, and I would argue that this is complicated, but I think if you could charge them a surcharge, so like if you want to opt into cancer treatment for lung cancer, then you can pay £20, £30 a year, whatever is the cost.
Yes.
I don't think tobacco users should be able to force via the tax system their costs on to other people. But it's not really them doing it at the end of the day. although it might be when you think of them actually asking for the treatment. At that point, you could say they are. But the fact is they're not doing that. If you look at the cost of a packet of cigarettes, which is about £20 at the moment, or thereabouts, 75% of it plus is tobacco duty and VAT. So they're paying through the nose at the moment. Anybody that wags their finger at tobacco users and says, oh, you're costing the NHS money, I mean, they're right about that, but they're certainly not costing the state money, and that's what people are fundamentally getting at. They're a positive externality, smokers. They're not a negative externality.
Now, let me congratulate you. And you know, when I heard about your award, I thought to myself, you are an incredibly thoughtful person, and you give people, certainly on this channel, an opportunity to think about things in a different way, and I applaud you for that. This award for defending freedom comes from Forest, the pro-smoking, or the Smokers' Rights Organisation.
Absolutely.
And what I like about this is that I know what you care about and who you respect, and this award is something that you will treasure. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Forest is the freedom organisation for the right to enjoy smoking tobacco, and it's been going for quite a long time. It's under the fantastic leadership of Simon Clarke, and he puts on an annual dinner, typically at Boisdale or Belgravia, every year, where politicians, think tankers, journalists all come together to put forward and enjoy the fact that we can still freely do things, and we are interested in defending those things. And the reason why I'm so pleased with this award, this Voice of Freedom award, is I really do appreciate the pat on the back that my fellow Liberals and Libertarians are happy to give me as a result of me running the grassroots campaign for defence of smokers' rights.
I think it's so. I think it's so important. There you are with your award. It's so important to actually venerate people like you, and I'll tell you the reason. Because it's very, very easy to fall into the trap of my mother died of lung cancer, we should ban smoking.
Yes. And a lot of people have said that to me on the street.
Yeah, and people doing that are not bad people, they're well-meaning. The problem is the end result. Now, I'm perfectly happy for somebody to say, let's discourage you from smoking. Yeah. It's the banning that's the difficulty. Yeah. But that is not an easy argument to make, is it? I mean, you find it easy.
I find it easy to make, and I think a lot of people are sympathetic to it when you put it in certain terms. If you're a 25-year-old man and your father were to stop you from smoking cigarettes by constantly hiding them when he comes round to your house, I think you'd go, Father, it's nothing to do with you. I know you love me greatly and you've got my best interests at heart, but you can't be hiding my cigarettes in my house when you come round. It's nothing to do with you. You don't have a right to rule over me, even if it is in my best interest. And I think once people admit that that is obviously the case, I mean, that is obviously the right answer, that the young man is in the right, then it's just the case that the state is doing the same, but on a grander scale. The state is wrong in doing it.
Talking about freedom, I spent my 13th birthday in a hotel in Moscow, right, with my mates. We went on a school trip, and I will tell you, we got out the fags and the vodka. It was absolutely superb. We were broken men by the next day.
And very little harm would have come to you because you were at such a young age.
I have to say, Russian cigarettes and Armenian vodka was definitely. I mean,
quite hard on the throat.
It's fair to say that my 13th birthday party was a little different to most other people's. Anyway, look, I just want to say to you, obviously, I was very clear in this. My mother died of lung cancer. God rest her soul. Do not smoke cigarettes. It's a poor idea. But I do maintain it is because of their Moorish nature. If you were able to smoke one a year, you would be perfectly fine.
It should be admitted, though, that 69% of people who have ever smoked have given up smoking. So it is not addictive in the sense that you can never give it up. It is possible if you have a strong enough willpower to give it up.
I'll tell you what, having stopped smoking, having smoked maybe 10 to 20 Marlboro Reds a day, I think cigarettes are highly addictive, but they're not very addictive. And what I mean by that is you will be desperate for one for a couple of weeks, but you won't be shaking, you won't be dying. Yeah. I cold turkeyed it. I just threw them in the bin. Although, to be fair, my mother was ill at the time, which I think made it easier.
Yes.
But it's. I mean, I've never taken heroin, but it's not like that. It's not as difficult as people make out. Okay, Charles Amos. congratulations on that Voice of Freedom Award.
Thank you very much.
I know how pleased you will be
I'm very
about
pleased.
that.
Hence the smile.
And the Forest lunch I must go to next year.
You must.
I know
you must
Simon Clark quite well. I'll get in touch with him. If you want to get in touch with the show, 0344 499 1000. We've got young Bob coming up next. Wow, he is robust. And Alex Dyke as well. Back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, somebody's messaged me to say, are you frightened to talk about the Dio Bandis? I don't know what that is. Yes, we're not afraid of it. We just don't know what it is. This is the press preview with Andre Walker, Young Bob and Alex Dykes. And we are going to look through all of the papers. But before we do that, Young Bob is in the studio. Alex is down the line. And this is the first time I've seen you since you were attacked during the Makerfield by-election. So first, I was glad to see that you are well, obviously shaken up on the night. And look, I know it's a couple of weeks ago now, but can you just tell us what happened?
Yeah, so I was in Manchester doing a stand.
A stand for what?
Saying that reform need to be more right-wing, which I think is a commonly held view amongst people in like the Restore Britain crowd. And considering we're contesting national by-elections, it should be a protected view. Any view should, unless it incites violence.
Sure.
So halfway through, we debated about 2 people. I was at an hour in. It was about 1 o'clock. I was assaulted by a gang of like 5 people, including 2 people who turned out to be Stand Up to Racism activists. One of them got nicked.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't sound like the sort of thing reform activists would do.
Exactly. So we had a discussion with several different people. They were quite courteous. And then halfway through one of the discussions, we had a Stand Up to Racism guy who, holding me down whilst another gang of guys who didn't like my migration topic started hitting me. Was unconscious for a few seconds, came up. They put me into Oak Eggs as the police came, dealt with the situation. And, you know, they've actually been pretty useful. They said this is one of the most high-profile assaults they've actually dealt in their time in the force. 3 people.
Wow, so the police have actually come down on your side?
Yes, because I got interviewed by several different platforms, several different people on the internet, made up enough fuss for people to actually do something about it.
The police on the night were not interested, were they?
It seemed like because a child had been assaulted, because that's what it is on paper, they were a bit sympathetic, but I was telling them, look, these 2 guys here filmed the entire event, because I didn't have access to the footage. do something. Because if they were filming the actual event and doing nothing, surely you can like get their footage for the sake of evidence or ask them, can you provide any evidence? They weren't really cooperative, but they were after the fact. So 3 of them have been arrested, 2 juveniles, 1 22-year-old, a notorious stand-up to racism activist, and they've all been put on bail. For juveniles, probably get a Rehabilitation Act. Hopefully we can get the stand-up to racism guy off our streets, like they always say constantly. They notoriously say fascists off our streets, violent assaulters off our streets.
By the way, I would agree with that mantra of fascists off our streets. I mean, I as you know, I'm somebody who stood up to political violence. I'm on the other side of it, where the police are bothering me about the fact that I removed a terrorist from an event. Boo-hoo. Takes a lot to make me cry, as I often say. But you know, I'm strongly of the view that people who bully our democracy need to be treated as terrorists and need to go away for long periods of time. So I would say to you, I mean, clearly we're not going to name the guy. I don't even know who it is, but the stand-up to
transgender person.
The stand-up to racism. Well, he'll be a big lad then. The stand-up to racism person. The stand-up to racism. Shouldn't have said that. The stand-up to racism person, in my view, you know, you've got to have an aggravating factor, which is it was an act of political violence intended to intimidate people out of political debate. I would put milkshake throwing with a minimum 5-year prison sentence. What I'd say, look, I don't find attacks on political people funny. I don't find the egging of politicians funny. I don't find the milkshaking of Nigel Farage funny. I think,
what was that MP who got egged years ago, way before my time, and he decked someone in the face?
That was John Prescott.
Great example, because he said in an interview afterwards it felt like a brick gone on his head.
Yes.
So that's why he responded accordingly.
No. Well, Ed Miliband got egged. And what it is, it's what I call the veto of one, which is exactly what has happened to you. Somebody's come past and gone, I don't agree with young Bob, ergo, he should not be allowed to say it. That is their central point, and if you say that, you're a terrorist.
Yeah, I would even go one further. We begin to trivialise violence. It was like the second milkshaking of Nigel Farage, wasn't it? I believe she was an OF model. She used it as an advertising stunt. So we can't let people get away with it. It's like the tolerance paradox. How tolerant are you going to be in intolerant ideas or intolerant people?
I'm extremely worried about it. So, but you are well, and the court case will progress as it will progress, and we will wish you luck with that. I mean, I have to say, at the moment, there is no aggravating factor of being a political terrorist, but I personally would add that.
Well, we went back. Well, that's quite funny. Like, with me, I'm quite stubborn, so we went back last week.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Are you really? I was unaware of that, so
yeah, so we went back last week, and we had a team of, like, 8 security guards, and we had a massive event. We had it listed. We had, like, you know, hundreds of people going through. We had 5 hours of straight discussion with people, and it's incentivised me to make these stands not just something we do unannounced, but actually announced. A bit of an event where people can come together who agree with one another, have a bit of a brothership, fellowship with one another, make sure that we actually know who exists, who agrees with our ideas, and ensure that people who disagree with us can come prepared. And that's what happened in Manchester. We did this today as well. I got a message to come on here as we're doing a stand-up in Camden Town with a priest who I invited to speak with me, and it went very well. So I'd actually say, you know, every time that stuff like this becomes public, as soon as people highlight violence that are happening against me, it shouldn't happen again. But it just incentivises me to go one step further.
Yeah, I understand that, but I was worried about you being far too willing to be a martyr. And that comes with it. But anyway, I think it's fair to say that we had our own discussion about it, and I think I'm satisfied that you're being very responsible. So, you know.
Yeah, I don't want to be the most famous gay in the most famous guy. Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah. Most famous gay.
Yeah.
Sorry, most famous. No, definitely not.
Pride Festival tomorrow, though.
Let me tell you, young Bob is very much not. But okay, let's go to Alex Dyke. How are you, Alex?
I'm all right, thank you, Andre. Nice to be back on the radio and TV with you.
Yeah, so apologies for sort of leaving you there for a couple of minutes, but I think it was worth updating with young Bob. What have you been up to? Because we gave him 9 minutes to talk about an important subject. I'm willing to give you 30 seconds to talk about your boring life. So I'm joking.
Well, that's very, very kind of you. I've been in London this week recording another edition of Plank of the Week with Kevin O'Sullivan. I've been doing some stuff with Mark Dolan. I'm back with him on Tuesday. But I've also been doing some music gigs and running my glamping site on the Isle of Wight, where we have these beautiful American Airstream caravans. So it's called Retro Staycations. Check us out because we do good stuff for those who want a little bit of Isle of Wight sunshine.
Would you go on a caravan holiday?
I've always done it. It's a British flag.
So, okay, what's it called? Retro Staycation.
Are we giving this guy free advertising?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I can't.
It's the station.
I mean, I can't
pay
hang
him.
on, young Bob, hang on. I've been coming on here for years. I've never plugged it before. I just thought I'd mention it, young Bob. Don't go up against me, please.
Hey, I said I like a good caravan holiday.
I like the Danny Dyer caravan TV show. Did you watch that?
No.
They've drawn a cook on me nat. It's superb. Okay, let's have a look at this. Now, I have got very mixed emotions about the front page of The Sun with this, England match being rescheduled as a result of an expected thunderstorm. Does that mean we can watch the match and get shedded till 5 a.m. afterwards? Is that going to be the rule?
I generally think Keir Starmer's going on like a kamikaze run. He called this parliament the gayest parliament ever. Then he's gone on to open pubs until 5 a.m. So I think this guy's just having fun before he's kicked out from
I have to say, I went to my... I was at a seminar at university, and there was this guy talking about diversity in the House of Lords, and he went, what you have to remember is there's more women lords than before, there's more black lords than before, there's more Asian lords than before, there's more gay people involved. I was like, yeah, okay, there's more. Okay, but the law says, and the law cannot be changed this quickly, the law says that you can open a pub until 5 a.m. on Monday morning.
Well, are pubs willing to, if they have an obligation to?
I don't think they will. I think what will happen is, I think a lot of pubs will say, look, we're going to stay open a bit later because we can, but we're not going to stay open all night because you know who the 4 a.m. lags are going to be, don't you? It'll be all the problem people coppering up. It will be bad.
It's hardly economically edifying to let on a bunch of drunk people who don't know what planet they're on to stay up until 5.
Once the football's over, guys, once it's all over, okay, 90 minutes, it might go into extra time, it might go into penalties. Once that has been hopefully celebrated, people will go home because next day is a school day. And if we lose, they might not even stay to the end of them, or they might stay just to the end of the match. But it's going to be a good night for Britain. But these thunderstorms, I mean, I lived in Florida, and, and lightning kills people over there. It's very, very serious.
It's like British lightning, which is good for you.
Yeah.
Make sure you get in your pool during a thunderstorm. No, I'm joking. My instinct is that the law will say, well, the law does say that you can open your pub till 5 a.m. On Monday. You can stay open. I think you can. What is open at 10 a.m. on Sunday and shut at 5 a.m. on Monday. I don't think many publicans are going to bother.
No, and they're going to need, some of them in the bigger cities are going to need security or extra security. Yeah. It's going to be expensive for them. Who's really going to be left there after 1:30 in the morning? People who probably are either too drunk to walk home or maybe are going to kick off and cause trouble later.
Yeah, absolutely, and also as Michael O'Leary said, it's the sniff brigade as well, isn't it? Because it's going to be people on drugs, sort of sat there till 5 a.m. Sort of singing "Put Your Hand Up for Detroit," right? Which nobody wants on a night out, do they? But on a serious note, I mean, obviously, the level of fatigue is less if people are taking hard drugs, and therefore you want
only on Britain, by the way, we can have a serious discussion of how a long pub should stay open.
Yeah, that's right.
Quintessentially British discussion we're having. Absolutely. I can hardly relate, but
absolutely.
It's great.
Will you be? Are you a drinker?
No, but I do turn 18 on the 15th of July, so it's not that far.
So it's interesting. So obviously you're 17. When I was a kid, if you were a big lad like you and you didn't take the mick, you'd be all right buying a few pints.
Yeah, definitely. Like there are times where I am served. Probably shouldn't say this on air, but
no, I don't think it's a problem actually. I think it's responsible I know it's not the law, it ought to be the law, but responsible pub owners, you know, because otherwise you'd just be roaming the streets getting on the
Well,
side.
that is that argument, but then I would say, isn't that sort of what the Greens say about legalising some drugs? Anyways, yeah, I drink sometimes. If someone offers me it, I'll drink it, but it's not something I do as like a behaviour or habit.
Which is unusual, actually, because most people in politics are quite big drinkers.
But I didn't start from politics. I started like with Christianity and religious apologetics. So I feel like my behaviours differ. Like, for example, the fact I'm engaged, I'm not going to have sex before marriage, the fact that I won't get drunk. You know, some of those things you might have as just a simple right-winger. But I just, as a Christian...
the other thing, of course, is unusual. We don't think of 17-year-olds as children, though they legally are. So you're engaged when you were a child?
Well, technically speaking, yeah.
Is she a child?
Yeah, she's my age.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It's child marriage. Child marriage. Move to Afghanistan, become a Pashtun.
Exactly, yeah, I'll become an Ayatollah.
Would you have got married under the age of 18? Because you can do 16.
You know, in Scotland.
Yes.
So you can, which is weird. Like, I think Scotland should fix that loophole, because I was looking into this. You don't even need to live in Scotland in order to get married.
Well, hence the joke about Gretna Green, which do you get that?
No, I don't.
OK, Alex will. Older people, there used to be this thing, so obviously in the time where sex before marriage was a massive taboo, I think you had to get your parents' permission to get married between the age of 16 or 18.
You still do,
but
in Scotland. Yeah,
but 16 and 17-year-olds, I think, could go to Scotland and just get married. And they used to go to Gretna Green, that being just the nearest Scottish town to England, allegedly. I don't know if it is. But people used to say, and it was famous, if you were young lovers, you were famous for going to Gretna Green. You know that, Alex, don't you?
I know that. Yeah, I know that. I've just really, really admired Bob. No sex before marriage, because a lot of my friends are married and they're not getting sex in marriage. So
it's not a guarantee. It's not like a
He's up for the solo version, though, right? It's just the full sex element. He's not meant to go. Can't make that joke in front of a child, can you? Anyway,
this can be taken off air.
Absolutely. By the way, you've got your T-shirt on. There is only one God.
Yeah.
Explain it.
Yeah, so someone randomly gave us a Speaker's Corner. Bit of a context, I was messaged to go on the show as we're doing a stand. When we do stands, I don't dress up nicely because it's too hot.
I think you're perfectly appropriately dressed.
Yeah, you're perfectly dressed for a late-night show. But I wear this as a sort of mantra towards the Muslims who focus on the fact they purely worship one God and they act like no one else does. And it's sort of a Trinitarian belief that we believe in one God, Father Almighty, who begets the Son and gives forth the Holy Spirit.
Oh, great. OK. Well, young Bob, I have to say, I'm impressed with your willingness to go out and stand by your views. OK, I think we've probably talked for long enough about getting shedded on Sunday, because it's amazing that is kind of the #1 political issue in Britain at the moment. We're going to go to a break, but this is a press preview. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is a press preview with Andre Walker, Alex Dyke and Young Bob. And Young Bob was telling me that you're out and about tomorrow filming. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so it's a Pride Festival, Pride Month, we're in that period. So I thought, might as well just interview people. I've never been
By the way,
yeah.
I can never work out which day Pride is because, like, 2 years ago, it was like Pride Year, wasn't it?
Yeah, they've intentionally extended it. So you have, like, Manchester Pride, which is in August, but it's supposed to be in June, and we're in July. I think they strategically distance for dates for different regional Pride festivals in order to get, like...
So you've never been to one of them. I've been to them before, and from what I could see, and I'm not an expert, it was basically an opportunity for people to run around in their underpants whilst their friends cheered them on, which I'm not particularly against. I just didn't see. Didn't see any great political value to it.
I would say that I think there's been a schism within the LGBTQ+ community, mostly egged on by the culture war. So you now have like trans pride now,
right.
And I think that's where you see sort of the more degenerate behaviour. Because you know the right sort of call them the old gays, the sort of people who didn't really like to press their views onto other people that may disagree with them. And I think Pride is sort of normalised. I don't want to say normalised because that sounds a bit cruel, but I think it's adheres to a lot of social norms. So we're not really seeing as much of like the people in dog leather outfits on the floor.
Yeah, those dog leather outfits were weird. I remember when I was doing the Saturday show. There was a guy who was twerking in his underpants to a group of children. And it was really funny, as we were slagging it off, my nephew came into my dad's lounge and said, my brother's lounge, his dad's lounge, and said, "What's that man doing?" And my brother went, "He's getting ready for swimming." He went, "All right, fair enough." But it was very clear. And when I say that, degenerate and pervert behaviour, if you wish to be a degenerate pervert in the comfort of your own home with a consenting adult, I'm good with that. Knock yourself out. You only live once, and I think there will be many people watching and listening to this who what they do with their partner is more fruity than perhaps we might imagine, and that is great. If you're happy, I'm good. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to understand though that there's a difference. There's a difference then. The walking around in fetish gear for people to congratulate you on your bravery. Bravery is running into machine gun fire at D-Day. The fact that you like a cock ring does not make you brave.
It's not just that. It's also like it's funny enough. I think it's almost like a typology. We have the Marxist Festival going on in London as well at the same time. So you have this sort of actual promoting of cultural Marxism in London, whilst you also have the Pride Festival. I think it shows the sort of progressive identity politics on display of London, this idea that it's better to somehow express yourself in a weird or ad hoc way, which I think is very strange, and it self-inflicts a lot of pain onto young people, because if you teach that it is better, or you give more attention towards people who are of the LGBTQ+ community rather than people who are straight, it gets a lot of people, due to social norms, forcing themselves to identify these categories when they typically don't. That's why I think you see a spiked increase in a lot of people who, for example, self-identify with the transgender community. Yeah. Not because it's like they generally believe it, but rather they've been egged on by a society that promotes it.
But let me tell you something. Right, I'm convinced about the following. When I went to university, the most boring people you could ever meet were the people with the blue hair. The sort of spiky hair, blue, but whatever. And basically, it was because they were fundamentally dull people who had attempted to come up with something unique about themselves. Now, I would suggest to you that the underpants brigade are probably fundamentally quite dull people, but they found something that makes them seem interesting. And to me, I think, what you say is interesting. Who you are is often not interesting. And if you've got nothing of any value to say, then you tend to compensate it.
Well, that's why,
let's shave my this, or, do my...
That's why a lot of the blue hair people would have probably been bullied, given any, typical sense of education. Not to be any... I was pretty bullied, and that's probably why I've ended up being a right-wing pundit. But it's the same on the extreme left as well, sort of pink-haired brigade.
Yeah, Alex, I mean, I'd have to say, I'm fairly negative about Pride. I mean, get on with it. It doesn't particularly bother me. But I think there is an element here where people who really don't have much to say decide to turn up in wearing something outlandish because they believe it's a statement. I'm just not sure it is.
Yeah, I think Pride, when it started, was a very, very, very good idea. Let's be proud of who we are and what we stand for. But these well-meaning things often get hijacked by the woke left and become more and more and more extreme. And we had a local, we have a local one here, and I remember seeing it, like the carnival parade going out, and there's all these mums with their kids, and just cheer these people on. And there's some great floats, and then you get guys in stockings and suspenders with a paper mache penis, which is erect in front of them. And I'm thinking, I don't want kids seeing that. It's not a sex show. It's not a freak show. It's meant to be a celebration about being from a minority.
I mean, but it's also validation of your perversion. Now, I want to be very clear. If you are a pervert with consenting adults in private, I'm good with that.
Such an outrageous statement.
But it doesn't matter, does it? If you there are I say this again. There are married couples who tonight will get up to all sorts of fruity things, and I'm good with that. And you only live once. Be happy.
But it's as soon as you get comfortable, as soon as like councils run for parades where you're comfortable enough to be in suspenders in front of children, it's like a lot of these sort of old gays that we go on about, right?
I mean, they
found stuff like drag shows as adult entertainment. As you said, if you want to be perverted,
but what is the logic of walking around central London with the PVC underpants with zip at the back?
Well,
right?
you just hit the nail on the.
Why were that?
You just hit the nail on the head earlier when you said these people are quite dull, and most people want to be somebody.
Yes.
Most people want their 15 minutes of fame,
isn't it?
Yeah, and if you can go out and be shocking and get a reaction, and you've got nothing to say, so you can't go on the radio or the TV and be a shock jock. You haven't got the brains that set up a really good YouTube channel, but if you can look strange, weird, different, outrageous, and get people looking at you and hide behind a mask, as a lot of these people do, this is your big day. It's just, I think, become too much for families to watch.
But that's because that's what it is. The central concept to me now, it seems, is to say, look, I have unique tastes. Let's put it that way. I have unique tastes. I wish to display them publicly. And now my answer to that would be, just don't. I mean, that's kind of. If you watch and listen to this show back, I've not even said these people shouldn't get up to all these shenanigans. I've told them literally do it.
You have I don't know, Surrey Street or whatever to do these things as well. It doesn't have to be an expansionist ideology. That's the problem.
Can I just tell you? I think if there was a straight pride and all the blokes turned up in their underpants, what it would be was last season's Next boxer shorts with a rip in the side.
Well, don't we have that naked biking stuff?
I think the straight pride underpants, because every woman I know says to her boyfriend or husband, right, they're going in the bin. They'll be all right for another year. No, they're going in the bin.
I think the big difference is, I went to a Pride meeting a few years ago when I was doing an outside broadcast for the BBC, and we went to this meeting in this gay pub. Yep. And in this pub, there were some fantastic pictures, really good photographs of gay men in the 1970s in New York, hanging out, leaning out of windows in high-rise buildings, kissing and all. They were really good photographs. And I looked at these photographs, and I noticed all around the room there were molds of men's buttocks, right, all around the room in frames. And the guy holding the meeting, I'm a straight guy, and I'm at the meeting talking about this outside broadcast.
And you look a bit like John Major, which makes it even more fun.
Oh, shut up. This guy, to him, the most important thing was he was a gay man and he wanted you to know about it, right? Which is fair enough.
The only gay in the village concept.
Yeah. So but whilst looking around the room and seeing all these buttocks, I did think, if I'd gone to a pub and there'd been women's breasts, moulds of women's breasts on the wall, the pub would have been closed down.
A lot of the producers are
it.
quite keen on that idea.
But because it's Pride, they get loads of funding. Pride gets loads of funding that other festivals and celebrations don't get.
I'll tell you what,
it's completely unnecessary, by the way, because, like, what council was it that was led by Reform that got rid of the funding for Pride?
And they did
fundraised it, and they got more money than they would receive from the council.
I've got to say to you, I went to a pub in Zurich, and my mate said it's called the Porn Pub, right? Now, it's Zurich, so it's not that bad. But we went in, and it had a series of pencil drawings about a pre-op transsexual, and I looked at the wall, and I knew him. I knew him. I went, that's Ralph. So I phoned him up and I went, right, have you posed for a series of pencil drawings for a pub in Zurich? And he said yes. And I was like, oh my God. Now I think there's very few, you know, people who watch and listen to this show hear an odyssey of different things, but there's very few people who would recognise a pre-op transsexual model in a pub in Zurich.
Only you.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
I mean, guys, I want to make it very clear. I'm all for Pride, but I do think some of them should rein it back in a little bit in public.
I think that dog thing. Did you see that dog thing with the kid? A little kid comes up and as far as she's concerned, there's blokes dressed as a dog.
One of my first interactions. You've reminded me. I've actually been to one Pride festival. It's been a trans Pride in Nottingham. I was at a protest and it happened to be on the same day.
Right.
The first thing I walked in towards the latter half, I think it was towards the end of the protest, the Pride procession, whatever you want to call it, and there was a person on the floor with her breasts out, acting like a dog, and you had the owner who was a man. Like, no kid needs to see that.
No. And I think actually they've got it slightly wrong, because I think walking through saying, here is my face, here is my voice, I am gay and I'm willing to stand up to those people that say that I'm evil, right? I think that's one thing. I think then I'm into dog sex fetish. Let's go out dressed as the dog. I think it's may sound like the same concept, but
lose momentum, lose manpower, and lose sympathy.
I think it is a different thing. Anyway, I've got to be honest with you. This is not repeated tomorrow. This press preview, but I just think we've taken this as far as it's going to go, because when compliance comes in on Monday and says, I wonder what Andre was talking about on Friday night, because what they do is
it's going to have a massive redacted sign on it.
The keywords flash up, and so almost every keyword it was possible to flash up has flashed up. But I do want to reiterate the following thing. So please enjoy the Pride Festival tomorrow. You'll be filming, asking people questions. You are somebody who believes that gay people should cease their activities. But you're not going to be nasty about it.
A secular society, practice homosexuality all you want. Don't think churches should be forced to ordain a marriage, for example. But, you know, I'm of your worldview because I'm a Christian that works from the political reality of things. So I get that it's actually quite cruel for in today's society to push a very puritanical Christianity. Yeah. If you ask me my honest opinions on whether it's a sin or not, I'll be honest about it. But it's realistic expectations. I think it's more toxic worldviews out there for me to focus on.
And I think it's also important for a Christian to turn around and say, look, I personally think that this is best not done, but I'm not going to bully you because Christianity is not about bullying.
Yeah, it's like a lot of people are in more opposition to Christianity because of spite of their poor experience. Now, obviously, there's like a refined science towards damnation and also complete acceptance. I think there's a dichotomy there. What you see with the preachers outside condemning everyone to hell, that's one side, and then the other side is like the Church of England ordaining transgender archdeacons. So, you know, there has to be a valuable mix.
I think that's right. I think that in my own view, and this is based on no real theology or knowledge of any real depth, my own view is that that if you are sincerely wrong and a good person, then you're probably okay. I think it's people who know themselves to be wrong and continue their activities.
I'd say even more so the people that have made them insurably ignorant that they will be fined because they're a good person. They're the sort of people that I'd have more of an issue with.
Yes.
So I have more of an issue with, like, transgender activists within the COV, because they believe in a belief system that teaches that's wrong, and they're trying to, you know, artificially mush that in with their own religious worldview, than a secular person who just believes it's a matter of opinion and expression. Because I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Andre, can I just add one thing finally about Pride? And I think this is important to say, and I'm sure you will agree with me, and you would have experienced this. A lot of our friends who are gay are not supporters of Pride. They don't like it. They want nothing to do with it.
That is true. The majority of gay and lesbian people watching this programme and listening to this programme will feel that Pride has been hijacked by a group of extremists. I do want to say one other thing that I always say at this point, which is about the word pride. In Christianity, pride is a sin. I actually think the problem is that there are two different types of pride. I think there is a type of happiness that encourages your child when they do well. That is not the pride that I would suggest is a sin.
I think
we've just got one word. We've got one word that ought really to be two words. The pride, which is vanity, and then there is the pride, which is attempting to encourage people and to be themselves and or whatever.
Yeah, and I would also go further to what he said on. Well, there are some people in the homosexual community that don't like Pride. Well, but that's because for a long period of time, Pride and the LGBTQ+ movement was a humanitarian cause on achieving equal rights. So it wasn't really a political philosophy. It was more, do we have the right to express ourselves? And then when it moved over, when we had this Goldilocks zone of politics where people were able to express themselves in any way, and they still had this brand and movement, it was then co-opted into a political movement. And a lot of homosexuals don't want to be associated with blue-haired liberals. But
that is precisely what we were talking about with Charles Amos, which is once they ban tobacco, they'll start banning sugar. The reality is there are a group of people for whom this is their business, this is their industry. And so once homosexuality is accepted, you have to find a new thing to be accepted. And actually, quite often, logic is too coherent. I think that you can take things to a logical conclusion, which is absolutely stupid, which is to say that because you can walk the streets being a homosexual, you should also be able to walk the streets with a zip-locked bum and a dog head and whatever else. Anyway, Compliance Claire, great to see you, and we will be back in a couple of minutes.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is The Late Show with Andre Walker, Young Bob and Alex Dyke. We've got to talk about something a bit less fruity now, haven't we?
Yeah, a lot less controversial. That won't get you, kicked off air.
Yeah, indeed. Alex, look, Andy Burnham's going to introduce a wealth tax, but it's not me that's going to be struggling, it's you, because it's in the south. It's homes in the south that are going to be well taxed. I'm extremely worried about this, and I will tell you why, Alex. We have not accepted that government spending is out of control. What we've decided is that Britain is insufficiently taxed. Now, you can do a wealth tax. You can do anything like that, but it has to be a one-off. I'm against it, but it has to be a one-off. What worries me now is that having taken everyone's income, you're now going to take their savings and their properties, and just to spend until the country goes bankrupt.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, Keir Starmer has upset farmers and old people and so many others. And now Andy Burnham is coming in, and this man is red through and through. Of course, he's been the mayor of Manchester, Greater Manchester, since 2017. Before that, I think he was an MP for about 16 years, wasn't he? Health and Culture Secretary. He knows the system inside out, and he's coming for our money, honey. And they want to attack the South. They want to attack the middle classes, who always seem to be paying more tax than anyone else. I know the super rich pay theirs, but arguably they can afford it. It's the struggling middle classes, I would say, who are going to get hit by Andy Burnham this time. So let's have a general election.
Okay. I would say that Andy Burnham as well is using regional politics.
Yes.
So his stunt about devolution, it's to put socialism through the back door. It's essentially saying, look, I'm going to leave everyone in their own areas to their own decisions. And because they're mostly going to be, red wall areas that have devolution, they're going to be Labour, governments, whatever that looks like on paper, number 10 North, they're going to push their socialist policies and their agenda. It's not going to be on the national agenda because it's going to be on local papers, and Burnham's not going to get the accountability that's necessary for actually enacting and starting those changes.
And of course, the devolution is not the devolution that would create a very right-wing government, which is a Parliament for England. Yeah,
it's literally just planting different semi-autonomous governments. I don't even know what it would look like. It was very much, his press conference was very vibe coded. And when you look at, taxing more properties, especially down in the south, that is literally playing at the mantra that the North blames the South for, the legacy of Margaret Thatcher, deindustrialisation, for example, or austerity measures. He's very much playing on the legacy of what he considers neoliberalism, to then push his agenda without any challenges or any backlash from the public.
I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, I don't know why he made Manchester a success. I don't know that he did. I think that if Manchester has changed, then I think the principal change has been a pro-business approach to planning. Because I don't think there's a great deal else that's actually happened.
But what do you, Andre, what do you think to the fact that, yes, it's clever to get the North behind you because there's millions of people in the North, but you are alienating anything north of Manchester, the East, the West and the South. This can't last for very long. No,
I think, look, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, that the professional Mancunian's a Scouser. But anyway, the Liverpool does it better. I don't think it makes a great deal of sense, actually. I think there is a problem in this country, and I say country by United Kingdom, that 87% of the population are English, which is, when you think about it, just this overwhelming figure. For every 5 UK nationals you'll meet, 4 of them are English. And I think that is something that potentially, if there was going to be a government for England, that would be why you would have it, to try and rebalance that and create a federal United Kingdom. But young Bob is completely right. Regional devolution is something Labour has wanted for a long time because they see themselves as potentially dominant of it. So you could have quite a small national government, but these absolute rotters of local councils spending an absolute fortune.
It also ensures as well, as you said, that these areas are always going to be red, so they're pretty safe for the Labour Party. But I think it's going to increase drastically political apathy because of the level of bureaucracy. I mean, the notorious meme, not another one, not another election. I mean, people were pretty depressed from the amount of people knocking on their door in Makerfield. And imagine if every single month a by-election or an election for an up-and-coming seat in a devolved government up north. I think these people are really going to start to get fed up because you had the poor communication and comms from Starmer. You're going to have the sort of good vibe-coated honeymoon period for Andy Burnham, but then it's going to get to the levels of bureaucracy, the amount of change that's necessary for the things he's talking about. And I think the only reason why he mentioned Number 10 North is because it is a period of 10 years. Reform, they're the sort of alternative option and vision for the country. They're very much looking within their first years in government, because I don't think they know that they probably won't survive more than one election cycle.
Yes.
Just because that's how right-wing governments usually are, especially one-off parties like Reform. So he wants to invest in a long-term vision for the Labour Party. And Reform just don't really have that. If you think of Reform, do you really think of a party that's going to live as long as the Conservative Party, for example?
But in that case, the battle lines are drawn, aren't they? An Andy Burnham Labour Party that says we are going to build big government structures right across the country, and the forget Nigel Farage, the Danny Kruger Reform Party, which says we have to get rid of all of this big government fast. Because the reform policy, from what I can see, is don't have any policy at all, just in the knowledge that our job is to get rid of things and not to build things.
I would say that at a time of austerity, where people are getting poorer and people can't afford things, when their pound is being stretched even thinner, people like the idea of a big government wrapping around a nice warm hug around them. So I think Burnham's going to be better at communication than Starmer or even Farage, given, the £5 million donation scandal.
Young Bob, what you're saying, it makes sense, but I think what you might be missing is we are already hacked off with Labour and with this government. Changing the man at the top is not going to make people on the right.
No, hang on. You say that, but the people of Makerfield voted overwhelmingly for reform, and then the option to destroy Keir Starmer and save the Labour Party, they did walk back to the base.
Well, yeah, they did, but that is only Makerfield, isn't it?
That's true.
You've got to think of the rest of the UK. Now, obviously, Nigel Farage is not as popular as he was, and he's got some problems that have got to be sorted out. But Andy Burnham, I just think it's going to be a flash in the pan, because I think he's going to get a honeymoon spell. I think the press might be quite nice to him for a little while, but I think even his own side are going to be to see through. He hasn't really got any policies, has he?
I think he's going to be really good in comms, because notice in his conference he didn't accept questions from the media. He's done that intentionally. Did it through COVID, did it for Starmer, never worked.
But what does that say about the man? If you can't ask me any questions, I'm going to tell you how I think it should be. I'm going to tell you how it's going to be. Don't ask me any questions, because I won't have the answers.
Well, but let me ask you this question, because this is what was on the front page of the I Weekend, and let me put that up in front of you, which is the reason for this discussion. How hard is it in the south of England at the moment, Alex? Because you have a couple of businesses, but you're quite tuned in with people, particularly in the tourism sector. I get the impression that the south is rich, we can tax the south. I think that is delusional, actually, and I think the south of England is really struggling, because it's very easy. My dad has a 6-bedroom house close to Andy Burnham's, and it is valued at £450,000. Right, it's all well and good to say that we earn more in the south, but a house like that in Windsor would be £1.5 million. Now,
it's tough. It's really tough it's tough, obviously, around the whole of the United Kingdom. But in the south, the bit I know about, theatre seats aren't selling like they were. Yeah. It's a buyer's market. If you want to buy a boat or a second-hand car at the moment, it's an absolute buyer's market. And all of the things like theatre tickets and holidays and all of the nice-to-haves, people aren't spending their money.
Ironically, I think the Green Party might have a good time with Burnham, because he can very easily sell that he is sort of regional identity politics is incompatible with this notion of socialism, that he's putting the South against the North, and that under a Green Party government will sort of have that unity. Because what I've noticed is the Green Party fallen off in the polls. I think they're polling nationally at like 12%, where sometimes they're polling, I think, the third largest party. So given Burnham's decision to plant himself within the North, maybe the Green Party have a bit of manoeuvring to potentially move themselves more to the South and be the sort of South Socialist Party.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'll tell you what I would do if I was the Prime Minister. I think Andy Burnham, number 10 North is Pebble Mill, right? To give the analogy, number 10 North is Pebble Mill. Selling Whitehall is Media City, right? That's what I'd do. I'd turn round and I'd say, walk round Westminster. It is a financial disaster to have all of these government departments crowded around the House of Commons. And why are they all there? So government ministers can get to vote easily. All you need is 8 helicopters, which sounds like a cripplingly expensive thing. But if you go around those offices in Whitehall, it would cost billions to refurbish them to a high standard. They're some of the most valuable properties in the world, and they're also a dump inside, many of them outside the big staterooms. I would sell Whitehall and I would move the lot out.
I mean, like, what?
Can you imagine the Americans doing that? Can you imagine Donald Trump moving the White House to Kentucky? It would never happen anywhere.
Sounds like something Trump will do, to be honest.
Well, well, by the way, you know the president of the United States used to have 3 houses. The White House, Camp David, and Mar-a-Lago. Do you know that Donald Trump bought Mar-a-Lago and brought it back as a presidential home? Did you not know?
I didn't know
It
that.
used to be owned. No, I'm not joking. Mar-a-Lago was given to the American state as a presidential home in Florida, but the president, I think it was JFK, sold it on the grounds that nobody ever used it. And so Donald Trump bought up the White House, Florida.
Well, and he's had a good week, hasn't he? Hasn't he just cleared $1 billion?
In crypto. No, he's doing less well on the Iranian side, isn't he?
I mean, yeah, like...
Yeah,
the thing is with Trump, I think he's completely flopped it in terms of...
He has.
He's sort of the Keir Starmer of the United States. But the thing is, he wasn't coming into his presidency. He was immensely popular. He had a broad coalition. I think he was the only Republican candidate in a long time to win by the popular vote. So it's an incredible shame. And I don't want European right-wing politics to tie itself too much to the American right, because I know Trump wants to expand his influence to Europe, because I know it's sort of a sinking ship there. If the right associates itself with the MAGA movement and the MAGA movement dies, especially during the midterms, that will completely kill the momentum of right-wing movements.
By the way, I just want to say to you, having said that my dad's 6-bedroom house with a 1/4-acre garden, it's about to be 100 yards from a railway station, which is 22 minutes into Manchester Piccadilly, is worth £450,000. Nikki from Slough has said her 2-bedroom council house in the 4th most deprived ward is worth 400 grand, and that proves that people in the south of England, because of the cost of living, aren't actually richer than people in the north. It's quite often a myth. More next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, it's the Late Show with Young Bob, Alex Dyke and Andre Walker. Yeah, Young Bob, right. So you're talking about Andy Burnham having questions redacted.
Yeah, so on Reddit, so he was doing a questionnaire on Reddit, and this is like to portray him as more of a man of people because he's on social media. I don't even use Reddit. It's not a youth platform. It's sort of weird he did it. And he's redacted all the questions. I think a GB News presenter also went on and asked for questions about who was the Pakistani groomer who was recently convicted. He put a tweet saying that he would do anything that he would...
Shabana Ahmed.
Yeah. He would do anything possible in terms of resolving and giving justice to the victims. And they asked him, would you deport this man? And if not, why? And they redacted that question as well. So it seems like Burnham, I think he's incredibly two-faced. And this is what you see a lot in politics. The nice guy in politics is always trying to gain power. They just see themselves as a figure. If they keep on going forward, they'll be a leader, they'll be a forward leader of a movement. So they're nice and they're firming it until they get into power. And like that, they instantly turn their face and they're two-faced as anything.
Interesting. Do you know, I was watching a TV show once, and there was that pop star called Tweet, and Simon Anstall asked Tweet a series of questions which rhymed with Tweet. So he said, what's your favourite place to eat? Tweet. Have you ever been to Crete? Tweet. Yeah, and he said, what's your favourite seat? Tweet. Anyway.
That's a dad joke right there.
We should do that with Andy Burnham. So, Alex, final thought on this football match on Sunday. By the way, loads of people have been in touch to say it might be at 7 o'clock. That was literally the discussion we were having.
It's just gone back to 1 a.m, I believe. The kickoff is now back
We don't
to 1
know, do
a.m.
we?
So that's just what I've just heard. I mean, I think the trouble is, with a big football tournament, whether it's the Euros or the World Cup or even the FA Cup, what makes it really special, and real big football fans are going to hate this, but it's the fair weather football fans, the families that get involved.
I agree with that.
And that's what makes it a big occasion. Like a novelty Christmas song. It's that the families go out.
I bet you've released a novelty Christmas song, haven't you?
I haven't. I've come close, but I've never done it.
They right need to do that. They need to like tie into more media and comedy. I don't know why they don't do that. It's so boring. We're so boring in the UK.
I think
should we write? Why do we write a comedy Christmas song, but like one that's savage? It really goes for the lefties.
Yeah, like what? It just takes them out of a vision.
What about grooming gangs for Christmas? Right, it could be a heartwarming tale of how, in your Christmas turban, you want an underage child.
I think that's gone a bit too far.
It's not going to work, that is it?
I think that's a bit out of court.
Yeah, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Anyway, back to the football. I believe it's now gone back to a 1 a.m. kickoff. You have to check with your newsroom, but that's what I heard. And I think that takes the families out of it, which is a shame, but we've got to think of the players' safety, and we've got to think what's best for England, what's best for the team. That's what really matters.
Indeed. Right, OK, so, young Bob, will you be watching the football? Are you a football fan?
I think it's mostly a distraction for the working class. I'm a conspiracy nutter. But no, I'll watch it as an act of national pride and also a good excuse to stay up ridiculously late, that I don't constantly watch it.
You've got to ask your parents, Bob, if you can stay up late.
Well, if I'm on this programme, of course, my parents are quite lenient. I mean, too many parents allow their children to do this, but
I had a very dear friend of mine who got caught having sex with his girlfriend whilst he was still in a sixth former. And it wasn't. It was that he wanted to move. That's right. He wasn't having sex with her. He wanted to move in with her because he had an argument with his parents. And the school said, we will not allow any pupils to live with each other in a relationship. So he married her, age 16, and the school did allow it. They said, well, we're a Catholic school. You are married and legally married in the UK.
It's weird to think schools used to have that sort of jurisdiction and respect.
Yeah.
You could listen to them. Now it's incredibly difficult to even convince children to get into school.
Yeah. It's not weird, Bob. It's not weird for us guys, because that's what we grew up, that you respected. That's how we grew up. You respected the headmistress, the headmaster.
But there was something to respect in those days. I mean, when we have senior police officers helping, helping by inaction, grooming gangs, rape children. Nobody's going to have any respect for public authorities. It's just
oh yeah, like I think the average punctual attendance in some of the classes were like 40%.
Really?
Yeah, it was terrible.
Wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Alex. We've got to have you in studio next time because I kept missing talking to you. I miss you in general, though.
Thank you. I'll come into the studio real soon.
All right, young Bob, great to see you. See you in a bit. We will be back with your calls just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk. And just to say to you, some people have been in touch about young Bob. When he was attacked in Manchester, I actually phoned him up and told him I was banning him from this show until he took his personal security seriously. He has actually done that, which is why he was back on. His most recent appearance in Manchester, he did have security with him. So, obviously, just to be clear, we've been as responsible as we can be. Anyway, talking of responsible men, Ben Fletcher, how are you?
I'm very well, you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Now, listen, so we don't know what time the Mexico-England match is on, or we didn't. Do we now?
We have a very, very strong suspicion. It is all but confirmed. It is staying where it is. So
which
that
is
1
1
a.m. on Monday morning. In case you missed it, earlier this evening, there was a suggestion that the game was going to be moved, brought forward by 6 hours to accommodate storms in the Mexico City area. So that would have meant a midday kickoff local time for England, 7 p.m. For England.
Which presumably you were keen on.
Well, yes and no. I think from a spectator's point of view, a lot of people would have said, well, brilliant, you can go down the boozer a little bit earlier on a Sunday evening and the kids can stay up and watch it and all that type of thing. But I think from a football point of view, it's going to be a difficult enough task for England to go to the Azteca Stadium and get any sort of result. For it to be put at the hottest part of the day.
Right.
We've heard so much about altitude and oxygen and that type of thing, and how that's going to affect the England players. I think that's the best possible news that England could hope for from a football point of view. From a spectator point of view, it's a shame that a lot of people won't get to watch it. Kids,
because it's going to be hot as hell.
Yeah, and the altitude and everything else, the lack of oxygen, 15 to 20% less oxygen for the English players to breathe in, which will obviously affect their preparations. And by the way, it's not like they've had time to acclimatise to this, having been in North America for much of their World Cup campaign so far. To then have to go to Mexico at very short notice and try and acclimatise quickly would have been very, very difficult. So no official confirmation from FIFA, but we are led to believe the kick-off time will stay exactly where it was originally scheduled, 1 a.m. UK time, and it will be live on talkSPORT Sunday night, Monday morning.
And how does it work with the commentary? Do we have somebody over there? Do we take the foreign how's it work?
No, we're there. The talkSPORT will be in the stadium, in the Azteca Stadium, the famous scene where Diego Maradona scored the hand of God.
The hand of God!
Against England. And you won't believe this, if England need a little bit of inspiration as to trying to go to Mexico and get a result, one team has actually done it. Do you want to guess who it is?
No, I don't, because I've got no idea.
Tottenham Hotspur beat Mexico.
What?
Back in the 1960s, there was a friendly organised. I don't know all the ins and outs, but it was basically a friendly, and Spurs went over there and they beat a Mexico 11. It must have been an exhibition or an international friendly. So if England needs some inspiration from the past, an English team with presumably not quite as good fitness as the current crop went there and got the result they needed.
Yeah, I have to say, that's good knowledge.
Well, how about that? It's almost as if I've been listening to my station today.
but you, Alan Gilzean scored for Spurs.
Did he?
Yeah, Alan Gilzean.
You're showing excellent knowledge of 1950s and 60s football.
Do you know what? Anyone watching's wondering what the earpiece is for, right? Although
mine's not plugged in.
I normally come up with some good facts, but any football-related facts is not going to be me. You don't think we're going to win the World Cup, do you?
No, I don't. And listen, I've always been very, very honest about my football allegiances. I am English-born. I'm a Scotland supporter. But so now they're out, I'm back to being English again. Yeah. Even with that in mind, I just don't see it. I think the performance levels I've seen so far from England, the best they played was the second half in their first group game against Croatia. If they can match that intensity, they can match that quality, then I think they've got a chance in Mexico. But the rest of it's just been so pedestrian, so shaky from a defensive point of view. They don't look like a team. When you look at Argentina, who are currently live on talkSPORT, 1-0 up at half-time against Cape Verde, they look the real deal. Spain are battering teams. France are battering teams.
Explain to me this problem with the defence, because I know nothing about football. I mean, obviously, I know what the defence is. I mean, I'm not an idiot. But everybody, it was interesting when I watched the first England match, or at least the run up to it. The commentators at the BBC should have had it on talkSPORT, but okay. But the commentators at the BBC were going, what we need to see is a strong defence from England. What is that concern? Because it has proved to be a valid concern.
Thomas Tuchel made the decision not to take Harry Maguire, who you will know as one of the heroes of 2018. He's always done it in an England shirt, if not for his club Manchester United, always done it for England. Thomas Tuchel decided not to take him. Which seemed like a good idea at the time, but now John Stones has had an injury, Reece James, the left-back, suddenly not so good. He also made the decision not to take Trent Alexander-Arnold, formerly of Liverpool, now at Real Madrid, very good right-back. And again, at the time, those decisions are explained. The England manager, it is his prerogative to take who he wants and who he doesn't want to the Americas for this World Cup. But once you start getting injuries and once your plans start to look a little bit shaky, the experienced heads, people will ask, well, why are they not there? Now, could it have been the case that England would have done a little bit better, their foundations may have been a little bit stronger if they had the experience, if not the quality? I think yes. Now, it's fine when you're playing teams like DR Congo, teams like Ghana, who are just going to sit back and defend. You're not going to be too tested. But once you start playing teams like Mexico, France in the quarterfinals, Argentina in the semi-finals, or I might have got that the wrong way around, it starts to look very, very tricky indeed. So England, I think, needs to pull a bit of a rabbit out of a hat in Mexico. The good news, I think, is it's going to be at 1 o'clock in the morning. Of course it can be done. Of course it can be done. It's not impossible. They're not going to face a Mexico team that are particularly high quality on the field. It's all about those conditions for me. It's all about the lack of air. Lack of air makes it sound like it's some sort of... was not Event Horizon. What was the Arnold Schwarzenegger film? Where they end up outside the Mars atmosphere. Recall. Yeah, Total Recall. Yeah, exactly that. It's not that sort of scenario, but I do think how they managed to adapt. And listen, a lot of talk about why Mexico getting to host these games. They're hosts. England hosted games at the Euros. Of course, it should be in the Azteca Stadium. The difficulty for England is the conditions, and I think if I was a betting man, I would probably be looking at a Mexico victory. Hope I'm wrong. Hope I'm wrong. It depends which England turn up.
And what is this match? I know it's really embarrassing.
Last 16.
Last 16.
Yeah.
So it's the octo-finals.
The octo-finals, in effect, yeah. So the quarter-finals are next. So historically, you'd go group stage, last 16, quarter-finals, because it's an expanded World Cup.
Did you know there was such a thing as an octo-final?
I've never heard the phrase octo-finals.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Debating competitions.
So what's the 16th finals then? What
Isn't it an octo-final because you've got 8 competitions?
Yeah. There's 8 left. No. There's 8 left in the quarters. There's 16 left.
Yeah, that's right. But there's 8 matches. I think it's called an octo-final.
Oh, how about that? I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it's 1/8.
Yeah. Well, there we go. How about that? So it's so this is the last 16 for a place in the quarterfinals.
Octo-final. Octo-final.
Something that you don't know. Something I didn't know. I will use that. Yeah. I'll fact check it first, obviously, but
no,
I'll check it.
I remember from debating, you used to go to octo-final, quarter-final, semi-final, final.
Yeah. Well, there you go then.
Well, I'm depressed we're not going to win. Tell me about Scotland, though. How did Scotland... How come Scotland was so badly outclassed?
They didn't score enough goals against Haiti. Scotland had a very, very difficult group, Group D. They faced Haiti and then Morocco and then Brazil. Morocco.
But Haiti... Isn't Haiti starving?
Well, from the football pitch, they looked pretty good.
Pretty lean.
They looked pretty good on the football pitch. But I think that was the game. They had to make an impression under Steve Clarke. They didn't. They got the win. They won 1-0, but then it ultimately went out on goal difference. 3 points was enough to get through to the last 32, but Scotland were, in the end, about 6 off on goal difference. So it wasn't even close. They rightfully went home again at the first hurdle. But
by the way, our fact checkers agree with me on octo-final.
Do they?
They do.
Our team of fact checkers.
They do. And you're on the show later. Are you going to come back in?
Say again,
depends
sorry.
Are you going to come back in?
I don't think I am.
Depends how many calls we get.
I think young Luke Henry's coming in to talk a bit of England. Very, very exciting TalkSport prospect, who you'll know from the TalkSport airwaves, of course. But Argentina and Cape Verde is taking place right now on the TalkSport airwaves. We're looking ahead to Colombia versus Ghana, 2:30 a.m. kickoff. We'll have all the latest news from America. We'll have the back pages a little bit later on this morning. We're on till 6. Normally we finish at 5, but we're on till 6 a.m. this morning. So am I getting paid any extra? What do you think?
So Cape Verde.
Yeah.
It's been quite nice, hasn't it? The fact that we've got these little countries.
I love it. All this talk about the expanded World Cup format, no, it's not been for the purists. You get duff games. No, look at it. Look at the FA Cup.
Aren't duff games and anomalous wins what makes the FA Cup
of course,
the FA Cup?
Exactly my point. So for me, it's like to have so-called perceived smaller nations coming in, getting the odd result, affecting results around them. That's what you want. Yeah, I don't understand people that say, they shouldn't be there, these teams shouldn't be there. Well, they're there by rights. They've qualified first and foremost, and they've made an impression. They've not really whimpered out.
And this is the world champions, and it's only 1-0.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
exactly that. Well, last I checked, it may have changed, but it was
reminds me of when Lee beat Fulham. No, was it Lee RMI kept Fulham to a draw in the FA Cup?
Well, my team Woking went to Coventry in 1997, then in the Premier League, and drew with them 1-1.
And what is the outcome if you support a smaller country? Because I've got a friend of mine who's a big Northern Ireland fan, and if they qualify for anything, he's absolutely cock open. He says, for us, qualifying is like winning the World Cup.
Yes and no. I think from a Scotland point of view, they've now qualified for 3 out of the last...
Scotland's a big, small nation, isn't it?
Yeah, but
if you like.
And they've, for 28 years, or 20 years, I'm trying to get my maths right, they hadn't qualified between 1998 and 2020, so 22 years they hadn't been at a major tournament. They've now done 2 Euros and a World Cup. Great getting there, and of course you celebrate like it's 1945 once you do it. But if you stink the place out once you get to the finals, as Scotland have done in their last 2 Euros and the World Cup finals, you kind of think, well, what's the point? If this is what we've got to look forward to. It's a bit like when Arsenal used to qualify for the Champions League. They'd made 4th place a trophy in the Premier League. They'd get through and get stuffed in Europe straight away. You think, well, what's the point? You've got an invite to the party. At least try and pull.
Do you know the 1999 European Debating Championships? I made it to the grand final.
Not the octo-finals.
No, I made it to the octo-finals, obviously. Made it to the grand final, 1999. Do you know I came last in the grand final? Last.
Did you?
Yeah, they said our proposal was ridiculous.
What was your proposal?
That in order to stop acts of international terrorism, we should arrest Osama bin Laden, break up the Al-Qaeda network and invade Afghanistan. Right, now...
2 years later.
2 years later, Bush adopted the policy, but only after September the 11th.
Yeah.
Right. I will tell you, now, to be fair, there are people who are going to say, it didn't actually work, but I think it's worth saying that at the University of Rotterdam in 1999, it was me that first proposed the Afghan invasion. We thought it sounded like quite a good idea.
Well, 2 years later,
Do you know what? The first opposition guy, is now a KC.
Is he?
He just murdered me. He just murdered me.
Does it make you think you're still in touch with him?
No. No, we weren't mates. We weren't mates at the time.
I never did debating at university of that sort anyway. But at school, secondary school, I used to compare public debates and debating things and that sort of thing. And one of my mates came up with the topic, my dog should be Prime Minister. And this was under the Tony Blair era, which is hilarious because George Michael later released Shoot the Dog and all that. But and he came up with a compelling argument as to why his dog should be Prime Minister, and it's all to do with how he follows instructions, how he's very well trained and that sort of thing. And everyone thought at first it would be hilarious, but he made some good points.
I don't know if I can say this, but I saw in the debating competition that that I judged. Was it Erasmus University stood up and said that they wanted to legalise bestiality?
Oh dear!
Right now, the problem was they came up against these Eastern European teams who just went, "We can't do that; it's disgusting." But they didn't make any actual arguments. Yeah. So obviously, these Dutch just thought, let's just say something so outrageous they can't think of any arguments against it. And they literally sat there going, we just can't think of any arguments against it because it's just so bad. All right, well, look, we're going to have somebody in for a talk. But by the way, your Gabriel Anderson bloke, he's a good bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, Gabriel Bonlahor.
What?
Gabriel Bonlahor.
No, I'm talking about the Talk Sport guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gabriel Anderson. No, you're talking about our former Villa forward. Or Gabriel, the chap who works in production.
I'm talking about the guy who works at Talk Sport.
Oh, OK, yeah. Oh, young Gabriel. Yeah. He's
young Gabriel.
Yeah.
Young Gabriel. And this is the thing that amazed me. He actually went to university at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, that's right.
Isn't that weird?
University of Football Business, I think it is.
It's crazy, crazy. You actually go in the stadium to lectures.
What a lecture theatre.
Isn't that weird?
I mean, we had the Cargill and the Jackson up at Lincoln, but Wembley Stadium, you know what I mean?
That's right. Dodgy old 1960s buildings, and he's in that place. Crazy. All right, well, have a good show tonight.
Thank you, back from
and I'll see you later. Now, listen, I have got 7 slots available because nobody's phoned during this show. Must be the hot weather. It's 0344 499 1000. Get in touch with the show. If you call now, you know what? We're going to go to the break. You're going to be the next caller. You might as well. Otherwise, I'm just going to give you a very, very long monologue about Elon Musk. No, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do you a lecture on the symbiotic relationship between tax and investment if you don't phone. Now, you don't want that. So phone me, 0344 499 1000. In the words of Alan Partridge, no, but do phone me. Back in a minute.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, yes, you have called me, not in enough numbers, 03444991000. Let's go to Ken in London. Ken, you're on Talk.
Good morning, Andre.
Good morning.
For many years now, I think many of us we've known that perhaps the greatest threat to world peace, especially against the western side of the world, is militant Islam.
Right.
And as we look at the world situation today, for example, in Canada, all of Europe, UK, USA, Australia, we are all under a very advanced threat of Islam.
Sorry, Ken, can I just stop you? Because we've got some breaking news. Little Cape Verde have equalised against Argentina, despite the fact that Argentina are the world champions. Cape Verde, at the moment, the smallest nation in the competition, are on the offensive and might actually win. Now, Ken, I'm sorry to have interrupted you. I won't do it again. Please continue.
No problem, no problem. But listen, I would like to just draw to our attention the state of our nation right now, especially in 4 areas. King Charles, he made a covenant at his coronation to be the defender of the Christian faith.
Correct.
Now, from Buckingham Palace, that has been dramatically changed now. He is now regarded, he's designated as our king. I'm reading that, quoting now from Google. He's designated as our king who protects the space for faith within the multi-faith British nation. It's been changed. He's no longer the defender of the Christian faith, the Protestant Christian faith. He is a defender of the space for faith within the multi-faith.
Now, of course, there is a slight problem with that, because his vow before God was to defend the faith, which was Christianity, and I'm afraid he was supposed to be defending it from, in reality, Islam.
Of course, now what we're learning more about the past few years, he's sold out the Christian faith to Islam. He's now promoting Islam ahead of Christianity. So, in my opinion, and I was a big supporter of King Charles, I've now got very great. Well, I've lost my respect for him now, as he's sold the country out.
But the stupid thing, Ken, is that he has misunderstood. Right. In being the king, it is his job to serve the entire nation, whoever they are. Got that. His religious role is to defend and one would assume, by definition, promote Christianity, right? So he has got two jobs, but they are very definitely equally his job, and he has made a vow to God to do both of them. Now, he's perfectly allowed to say, I believe that there should be a tolerant Britain in my capacity as king, but he's also made a vow to promote Christianity. And by the way, I think you can do both. I think you can be a tolerant person and stand up for your Christian faith. I don't think that's difficult at all. Yeah, but that's not what he's saying.
I understand what you're saying, but this is treachery. This is treason. This is a treasonable criminal situation here. He supports Islam before Christianity. That's one point. And this second point, this is the state of the nation. Keir Starmer, for the past 2 years, he, and I believe, sad to say, he's a lying prime minister. He sold out our nation also to Islam to get votes from the.
And by the way, Ken, you've made a consistent point about Keir Starmer. Now, look, I don't know much about Andy Burnham's religious views, except for I do know that his children, I won't say were, go to the same Catholic school as my nephew goes to, and I believe he's a practicing Catholic. That, to my knowledge, that's what he is. But you've always railed about the fact that Keir Starmer is an atheist, and I have to say, you have persuaded me. I'll tell you why you've persuaded me, because he's the chief minister to the head of the Church of England, whether you like it or not. And therefore, he has a role in appointing bishops. To appoint Christian bishops as an atheist is an utterly ludicrous situation to be in. But I think also Danny Kruger has made the point that that part of the problem we're having in this country now...
...against Israel and Jews for 2 years straight, 2 years solid. The third point I just want to make, 4 points here quickly.
Yes.
Our mayor of London, I live in London, Khan, he is a devout anti-Christ Muslim, and his desire, according to the Quran, is to see Islam take over our nation and have Sharia law established in every town and city in Great Britain.
I think, by the way, Ken, I think that's why he took a seat in the House of Lords, because I think that he knows that that to certain people, his religious views would be incompatible with being British Prime Minister. Now, that's not to say that I believe that we should be racist against Muslims, but I think it's a bridge too far to have somebody with his religious views in that position.
Of course it is in this country, and the worst of all here, this is even more dangerous. Shabana Mahmood, she's another devout Muslim who's took part in the hate marches against Israel. She's publicly taken part in them. Like Khan, she also desires Sharia law in our nation. Now she is appointed.
But are we sure that she wants Sharia law in our nation?
Of course she is. Every devout Muslim wants Sharia law in every land on earth. Every devout nation.
Well, no. My understanding, Ken, I'm not an expert, is that she will live her life by Sharia law, but she doesn't necessarily want it for everybody else.
No. She is a devout Muslim. They want the will of Allah, the false god, to take over this country. Now,
is it possible, Ken? Sorry,
here's an amazing thing. Just give me this one wee point here. This is important. Shabana Mahmood, she is the nation's Secretary of State. Now, she's got full control over the Home Office, Internal Affairs, the police, border control, national security, counter-terrorism and passports. And she is a devout Muslim. This is the state of our nation. Our only hope, I believe, is for the leadership of the Christian Evangelical Pentecostal Church in this country to unite together and pray to God for deliverance from the tyranny of Islam. Otherwise, we will go under.
But that's not the tyranny, is it? The tyranny actually is of liberal white apologists. I was saying last night, I don't know if you saw me, with the Reverend Chris Wickland, the vexed vicar from YouTube. And I said to him that I had set out in this show, for better or worse, to have the most pro-Christian, most anti-abortion, most anti-euthanasia show in British media. Now, people warned me that would be dangerous, not physically dangerous, but in fact, nothing bad has happened. But the reason I wanted to do that was actually partly commercial, even though it represents my actual view. It's because everybody else is doing the opposite. Everybody is pro-abortion, everybody is pro-euthanasia, everybody is anti-Christian. And I thought that my show would do well if we stood by those principles. But that's not the Muslims, right? That is our friends at LBC. That's the James O'Briens of this world. People who are nominally, well, sorry, let's not call them nominally, people who were baptised Christians.
Andre, you have to be commended for trying to promote Christianity in this country, and I respect you for doing that. You're the only other person in your station who allows me to speak, and other Christians. We commend you for that. But listen, we're in serious trouble. Only Jesus Christ, the Son of God, can save this country. We need to get back to Jesus, the Bible. Now, people don't want to hear about hell.
Karen, by the way, Ken, Karen has been in touch and she's got a quiz question for you. Can you name a king, sultan or emperor from the Islamic world who believes in the promotion of Christianity and all faiths of all denominations in his country?
Maybe there's someone has said that.
No, you can't. No, you can't, Ken.
Somebody said that it is a lie. No Muslim believes that Christianity is honest. The Muslims hate Christianity. They hate the cross. They hate Jesus Christ, the Son of God. They hate Jesus, the Son of God. It's in the Quran. They only regard.
That is the central point, Ken, isn't it? If I sent a Christmas card in Saudi Arabia, I would be guilty of the crime of promoting Christianity. If I sent just a Christmas card, and yet, in Britain, we have to be the defender of all faiths. So it's the Muslim lands for the Muslims and the Christian lands for the Christians and Muslims?
Just last week, there was a report from Nigeria. A pastor was slaughtered by Islamists who came into his church and killed 22 of the members of his church. Killed them, slaughtered them in Nigeria. Nigeria is under tremendous attack from Islam. They want to take over the country. But listen, we need to waken up in this country. We need Jesus Christ back in control of our land. And if we don't repent, change our mind about Jesus and believe in Jesus, we are on the highway to heaven. I'm talking about the nation. Those who believe in Jesus Christ, I'm on the highway to heaven with others. But this nation now has turned its back. And I would like to encourage the born-again Christian politicians in Parliament to speak about Jesus.
We don't. I mean, Kent, we're going to have to leave it there because we're going to have to go to a break. But we don't stand up for our principles. And when I was talking to Errol Musk earlier in the show, you know, the point was made. The values that we have, now it's for multiple reasons, whether it be the Romans, whether it be Christianity, whether it be...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yes, this is Talk, and you can call us 03444991000. Robert is in Hertfordshire. Robert, how are you?
I'm good. It's nice to follow on from my role model, Ken. As you know,
yeah, of course. We forgot to say that you converted to Christianity because Ken persuaded you, but not in person.
No, that's right. He didn't. It's just, well, I've been thinking of doing it. I mean, I realise I've always been a Christian, but, you know, I've gone a little bit more now. I mean... You know,
hang on a second. If you converted to Christianity because Ken, get Ken back. Come on, can we get Ken back? Let's get Ken back. Caroline was due to be the next caller. We will come to you, Caroline, but I think we've got to get Ken back to talk about converting Hertfordshire Bob. Now, we'll see if that's going to work. But remind us why you converted.
Well, I realise that we are in a holy war. I realise that we are being dominated by an evil ideology. I don't recognise Islam.
But actually, are we not being a bit negative about we're in a holy war, Islam this? Ken, go on. By the way, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not very good at this, but Asher is. I am going to leave Ken and Bob to take over. I'm going to sit here with my cup of tea. Go for it, lads.
Hi, Ken. God bless you.
Hello, Robert. God bless you, my brother.
I was hanging on to your every word earlier, and you know what you said was right. We are in I believe we're in a holy war. I've embraced Jesus now is my saviour. I mean, I've always believed in God. I've always believed in Jesus Christ. But I probably was a bad Christian. I still am, because I've got a lot of rage in me. Most of my rage is against Islam, to be honest with you. I don't think I'm a particularly good Christian like yourself. I've got
Robert, it's not a matter of being good Christian. Nobody's a good Christian, really. Nobody's good enough to get to heaven. We get to heaven because we believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. We believe he died for our sins. We believe he was buried and rose from the dead. And because we believe in Jesus, Robert, God forgives us and gives us eternal life. It's not about us. We just keep our eyes on Jesus. Read the scriptures. Keep your eyes on Jesus. We follow day by day, Robert. None of us are perfect. We follow Jesus. He loves us. He wants us all to get to heaven. But if we refuse to believe in him, we don't get to heaven. That's the good news and that's the bad news. And you're believing in Jesus.
My worship is based on gratitude. You know, I'm grateful. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got children, grandchildren. I'm quite solvent. I mean, no one's given it to me, but I do recognise this is. I should be grateful, and I should be grateful to. I've got some health problems, but I do pray every night for that. I'm a little bit of a cheat, Ken. I don't read the Bible. I've got macular disease, so I've got a talking Bible. So I'll sort of cheat a little bit, you know.
That's wonderful. These talking Bibles are very good. But listen, God bless you, Robert, and your wife and family. But the most important thing for us as Christians, for anybody that's listening, nobody is good enough to get to heaven. I am a sinner saved by God's grace. Every Christian you meet still commits sin. We don't want to sin, but we still commit sin because we've got a sin nature. We are saved by the grace of God. That means his unmerited, undeserved favour. He died for every sinner, and he offers everyone, whatever our sin, he offers us love, mercy, and forgiveness. The condition is to believe in him, who he is. He is the Son of God. He died in our place. He was buried, and he rose from the dead, and it was all witnessed and written down in the Bible. And when we believe God, we believe his word, we're born again by the Spirit of God. We become Christians. This is the greatest thing in our life, Robert, is to believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, not religion. I love Jesus because he saved me from
Ken, just a matter of interest. So, first of all, I mean, much as I love Robert, I think he's a good bloke. I think he made a silly point about needing to read the Bible rather than listening to it. I think the key thing is that you're absorbing the message. But what's your average worship like? What do you actually do? I mean, do you go to church? Do you pray? I mean, how does that work?
Are you asking me or Ken?
Ken.
Say that again, Andre.
What is your worship practice? What do you do? Do you go to church every day? Do you pray every day? Do you pray in the morning, the night? How do you do it?
My life consists of talking to Jesus every day in my life. He's always in my heart, always in my mind. I read the Bible regular. I believe the Bible is God's word. My son and daughter send me letters from Canada, and they speak to me in their words. When we read the Bible, or we'll listen to a sound Bible, we're listening to God's word. It's a message to us. The most important thing is to believe in Christ and believe his word, because it's the word of God that gives us life. Jesus is the living word. The Bible is the written word. And when we believe in Jesus, it's wonderful. Life is difficult. I'm far from a perfect Christian. I'm still committing sin. I ask for forgiveness daily. Nobody can reach the standards of perfect holiness in this life. No person. But because we believe in Jesus, we trust in him, Andre. We don't trust in ourselves or our good work.
But Margaret, I mean, I remember Margaret Thatcher was asked in an interview that what is the most important Christian principle, and she said choice. Now, of course, they expected her to say charity, but her argument was this. She said, look, your time on earth is not about you being tortured for the amusement of God. The purpose is that you will have the choice whether to sin, and you will have the choice whether to repent, and you will have the choice whether to do good things or whether to do bad things. And by the end of your life, the hope is that you will have understood that when you choose to do the right thing, life is better. And that is the purpose of our time on earth in preparation for heaven. And I think that's an eminently sensible argument.
Yeah, that sounds sensitive, but actually the secret of a Christian is having a relationship with Jesus, talking to Jesus. The way you and I are talking right now, I remember when I was first told about Jesus by I'm a bricklayer, a foreman in Canada 45 years ago, he just encouraged me to talk to Jesus and ask Jesus to help me understand who he is, what he did for us, and read the Bible and consider it. Nobody forced me. And as I continued to ask Jesus to help me understand, he opened up my heart and he showed me the truth. And as I was driving home in my truck from a Bible study at his house, God spoke to me in the truck and said, Ken, Jesus loves you and died for you. And that's when I repented. I changed my mind about my life. I says, I'm going to follow Jesus now.
Now, Robert, what? Because he is here to hear this, and obviously vanity is a sin, but I think it is important to understand what contributions people make. What is the importance of having somebody like Ken there to stand by Christian principles?
It's very important. I know that Ken's outside Westminster, but I feel the trouble with the Christian faith is we haven't got a real leader, a strong leader. And I don't mean Cliff Richards. I mean someone who's real. He's not politically motivated, so he's got nothing to lose. But us Christians, we need now a role. Ken is a role model, but we need a powerful leader.
I'll tell you what, I mean, in the 1980s, Pope John Paul II was fantastic, solidly anti-communist, solid defender of the Christian faith, and probably by his support for the Polish democratic opposition, probably hastened the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Ken. I've got a confession to make. I've been coming on. I've been listening to you for a couple of years. It used to, as soon as you came on, I'd turn it off. I'm sorry, but I did, and I just thought, no, you're too fire and brim. But the more, because I'm 73 now, and I feel if I don't accept Jesus Christ as my saviour, I'm in a lot of trouble when I go up there. A lot of trouble, So, and then you made more and more sense. And I like your stance on Islam, exactly what I feel. I feel that, and I do apologise to Muslims who are listening, but I do feel that the ideology of it is evil. I'm right behind you. And it's strange, really, because I used to turn you off and then come back when you'd gone. But now I hang on to your every word.
Well, Robert, listen, we have got a leader. Jesus Christ is our leader, Robert. He's our leader. God himself is our leader. He loves us. This is the most amazing thing, is that our Creator loves us so much, even the lower sinners. That's why he died for us, so we can have a relationship with him. We'll become sinless when we get to heaven, but while we're still in our human body, we're still weak. We need help every day. But the secret of all this is, as I'm understanding, is God's grace and mercy. We just thank Jesus every day. Whatever our situation, we give him praise. And if we fail, we say, God have mercy.
Okay.
God loves us.
Ken and Robert, thank you so much. I'm going to get rid of both of you. We'll be back just in a couple of moments.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
OK, so I've just been told that there's a really interesting text message coming. I've not read it yet. I'm just going to read it out. It's from Richard. Good evening, Andre. Your previous caller, Ken, talks a lot of sense regarding the King and his faith. I have also been a staunch royalist, but recently, since the death of our Queen, I've noticed that the King mentions Islam and Ramadan more than Christians and Easter. Those changes have certainly been made in the King's job description, watering down his position of defender of the faith to faiths and multi-faiths. And it is frightening that these changes were made all on the quiet, and they seem to just have appeared. As Ken says, the Prime Minister is always sliding more with any faith but siding more with any faith but Christianity. I hope Prince William and the wonderful Princess Catherine do better for our national faith. God bless you all. We need him. Which is capital H, so I believe that's God. Thank you. And that's from Richard. Look, Richard, I think that we are a country that has been well-meaning and stupid. The reality is the role of defender of the faith is an important thing because it was accepted that Protestantism, now whether you are Protestant or not, Protestantism and the Protestant version of the Christian faith was significantly under attack. And the King was specifically tasked with that job. Now, he was not tasked with the job of defending Islam. He was not tasked with the job of defending Buddhism or Catholicism or Sikhism or Pentecostalism or any of those things. He was tasked with defending Protestant Christianity. And I think he should do that job. And I say that as a Catholic. OK. Let's go to Caroline. I did say we'd go to Caroline in London. Caroline, I'm so sorry for the wait. You're on Talk.
No, thank you. It has been a bit of a wait, but it's worth it. Andre, please let me make quite a few points.
Go for it.
I agree with a lot of what Ken said. Not so much on the Jesus religious part, because I'm not religious, but everything else I agree with. I'm coming from a place of what is right and wrong.
Yes.
And everything that's happening in this country is the opposite way.
Yes.
We've got a government who are coming after the white people. We've got a police force that is not a police force anymore. We have councils that work for themselves, don't work for the people. We have a government that is literally, since even before Labour, but they've literally been taking bit by bit, very, very cleverly, bit by bit, our liberty. We have not got free speech here.
No. We've got less free speech. I think it's important to say we do have some.
Okay, we do, at the moment. I phoned you originally about the land tax because I can't sleep at night. I'm so worried about that. But then another thing I've just read, Andy Burnham vows to ditch first past the post voting system in favour of proportional representation to allow smaller parties to govern. Now, we might not agree on this or get into this in a big way. I've been researching this for a long time. I follow Talk. I speak to you all the time. Thank God for Talk. I follow 2C and I follow a lot of other very good investigative journalists. And we are being run by the Fabian Society.
Yes, we are.
The Bank of England guy is a Fabian. Their aim is to make this into a totalitarian...
I know you are, and just, Caroline, just to make you aware, Fabians are what used to be called incrementalists. They are people who believe that we should have communism in this country, but it should be incrementally brought in. Their coat of arms used to be a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yep. Yep.
Now, that sounds mad. It's true.
No, 100%.
Sorry, by the way, I should say, sorry to interrupt you again, they wouldn't have called it communism, they would have called it socialism. But the writings of Karl Marx, that's the point.
Correct. And that is where we're heading. That is exactly where we're heading. And it is absolute. We are in very, very big trouble in this country. I mean, look, they can pass a law in 5 seconds to open the pubs till 5 in the morning, but they allow a monster who raped 50 children and was part of a huge gang in Rotherham to just walk out of prison and just disappear.
Caroline, do you mind if I just explain that to everybody? Normally it takes a lot of time to put a bill through Parliament, but that's only because there needs to be scrutiny of the bill, big debates on it or whatever. What Keir Starmer did was brought in a one-line bill saying that this Sunday pubs could open, sorry, this Monday morning actually, pubs can open till 5 a.m. What I suggested yesterday and what I think you're talking about is you could put a bill that says the Shabana Ahmed brackets deportation bill, and you could simply say one line, Shabana Ahmed, whatever his name is, should be deported to Pakistan, full stop. And that's it. And that would be the whole law, and it would apply to one person.
Absolutely.
If you can do it for a pub, you can do it for a see you next Tuesday.
Exactly. That is my point. Now, how have we got to a situation, Andre, in the UK where no one is talking, the mainstream media are not talking about the rape gangs. I've read some of the rape gang inquiry that Rupert Lowe's put together. It's beyond horrifying. It's beyond horrifying. This has been going on for years. You've got
there was a girl who was raped with a broken bottle, and her abuser then repented to Allah before he left the house.
Yes. And they were, well, I don't need to repeat this. I don't know if I can say what I've read on here.
I think you can. What we'll say is...
Well,
give me 1 second, Caroline, give me 1 second. Just to say to you that Caroline is going to talk about child abuse now, but it is from a legitimate report commissioned in the House of Commons. If you are upset by these things, please turn off. Go on, Caroline.
Well, some of the girls were raped by dogs.
Oh, my God.
I'm not joking, literally by dogs. It is so horrifying. And we have got social workers, we've got care homes, we've got the NHS, we've got the police, we've got judges. They knew what was going on for 20, 30, 40 years. We've got the Mayor of London. I can't say on radio what I would want for that man.
I mean, let's just be clear. Let's just be clear that the organising a child being raped by a dog is actually, I would suggest to you, not proof that you're a pervert. I think it's proof that it is a weapon of war, because I don't see any sexual, I might be wrong, I don't see any sexual gratification out of that. I believe this theory that I've got, which has come from India, the love jihad, which this is about breaking the spirit of the local population. I believe that's what that does.
I agree. I don't even think the raping of the children, is sexual gratification.
Yeah, it's not principally sexual. Yeah, I get that.
So we've got that going on, which is the most heinous thing happening in our country. Okay, so then something else that really hit me. I think the first Tommy Robinson I don't call it a protest, whatever you want to call it, I went to, and I always
rally they call it.
Rally, yeah. A very, very, very beautiful-looking man, tall, beautiful man, came on stage. He was an American Iranian, and he came on stage. He was very powerful, and he said, "You guys need to listen to this. My grandfather was called Mohammed, and he married my Jewish grandmother, and they were married for 60 years. They had an amazing marriage. Iran, up till 1979, was the most incredible place.
Yes.
And in 1977, there were rumours about the IRCG, but everyone was too busy going out for dinners, doing their parties, having a wonderful life. And 47 years later, look what's happened. If you think that can't happen here, you better open your eyes and wake up."
I completely agree.
It's always stayed in my mind. And then I know an Iranian lady very well. She came over with her husband and her 2 kids, and her Iraqi best friend came over at the same time 18 years ago, because they left what we know is going on there. And I saw her 5 weeks ago, and she said to me, "I don't know how long I'll be seeing you for, Caroline." I said, "Why is that?" She said, "We're leaving." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Oh, you probably won't understand this." I said, "Well, try me." She goes, "We left Iran for a reason, and what we're seeing here is exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
And now that, to me, is real news.
I've got a large number of good Muslim friends who are leaving Britain for the Islamic world because they fear the Islamists in Britain. Caroline, I'm going to have to leave it there simply because I just don't want to be rude to Georgina. We've only got 2 or 3 minutes left of the show. Georgina, you are on talk.
Hello, Andre. Well, all I want to say, I mean, I've listened to what Caroline said, and it's heartbreaking what's happening in this country. And any government who will stand by and watch children be brutalised by Muslim men, stand by and see our children get stabbed in the streets, stand by and see our elderly get attacked, which is happening every day. These things are happening every day. They are complicit and should be held accountable for what's going on in this country. They have not got the political will, Andre, to do anything about it. And like Caroline said previously, they can pass a bill, make a law that the pubs can stay open for a football match, but they won't do anything to help our children. I find this totally disgusting. And also I wanted to say, you know, all these men, the majority are Muslim, that are raping our children, girls and boys. And it seems very strange to me that we have Shabana Mahmood in Parliament, who is a Muslim herself and did state, Andre, that her religion came first. Does that mean the people of Britain come a very poor second? Because that doesn't suit me at all.
OK, Georgina, I want to say thank you for that contribution. I also want to say something else about the issue of child abuse that is unrelated. There is a statistic which has just been published, which I think you will find shocking.